Go.
Go team.
And a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout on this Tuesday. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with you here, and we're joined by Gerry Moddejonge of Post Media, Bryn Griffiths, road55.ca. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Gotta get right into that mic.
Oh, really?
It's gotta come up. Yeah, you can't
I
be
want them to
afraid
hear
of
me
it.
at the back of the hall.
Oh, I'll be fine. Don't worry. No
Okay,
one's
all right.
complained actually as of yet of our noise.
Okay.
Of the noise.
Of like us talking and noise.
oh,
or whatever.
that.
But everything else
Yeah.
is fair game.
We don't complain about the odd activity, right?
We just talk about it on
Right.
the air. About
We just
the
talk
weird
about it
stuff
on
that's
the air.
happening
Yeah.
at nights
Yeah.
around here and stuff.
yeah. it's
Really?
like-
The
well,
late nights.
Bryn says we've got a beautiful view. I gave him the tour really quickly earlier, and he's like, "What a view!" And I'm like, "Yes, auto body
I got
shop."
so many bays to look at in my office.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. The other thing, too, as opposed to where you previously were, the valet parking here, I thought was just pretty fabulous.
Right out front.
Spectacular.
Yes.
Pulled up, guy said, Mr. Griffiths? Yeah. All right. I gave the guy my keys and.
You'll
so-
never see that vehicle again.
Okay.
But
Now
thanks
I
for
get
coming
it.
in.
I would have
get it.
assumed you just flew in on the helipad.
I didn't even. You have one?
Of course.
So what? Is that how you came in?
Of course. Not me.
Okay. All right. No, I wasn't aware of
Does
that.
We don't have
Batman
those
have
gophers
Robin?
around that I know of yet. Remember the gophers at the
Oh,
old
yeah,
place
yeah,
and how
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just digging all those holes? I'm surprised that building hasn't collapsed.
No, and actually, I don't know how far we want to go back, but when we first started that station, there was a field across from us, and there were
Oh.
cows. Did you ever hear this story? With
I've heard of the cows.
The weather cows, we called them, because the cows, there was a big a dugout right in front of the station. And so every morning, and there was far off in the back 40, I'll say, there were all these trees. And so every morning the cows would come out of the trees to the watering hole. And at the exact same time, every morning, so we said, hey, the weather cows. If we saw them at the watering hole, we knew it was going to be a great day. But there were some days where they didn't come out of the woods, and those were usually the crappy days,
Wow.
so.
This was across Stony Plain Road or right on the.
It's right where the big, the Walmart and
Yeah.
all that, everything like
That
that.
power
is. I mean,
center.
it's amazing how the city has grown. But like I said, I miss those cows.
The field next to it,
Yeah.
which is now the Lowe's and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember
Oh, I
being
know
in
which
for
one
like
you're talking.
shows for like
Yeah.
6 a.m. in the morning, and it was all land, and they'd have like these helicopters come to spray it.
Yes.
But it's 6 in the morning, you look out the window, all of a sudden this helicopter's like right out the window. That's pretty alarming to you when you're just like completely tired.
That's kind of cool.
Things
Those,
change,
that was wild to me.
and here we are.
Yeah, now in this bay with the helicopter pad and
That's
the
right.
valet parking, and
Like what you've done with the place too. It's fabulous.
we've got Tiger watching
I
us
noticed
over
Tiger's
there.
key
No
to
one
keep
gets
it in
to
close
see
eye on
that.
things. So
Notice his collar, Bryn.
It's back in the day.
yeah, that's kind of
that was-
nice.
Harkens
Nice
back
touch.
to the team.
We didn't
didn't
have
realize
that
he was
logo for
promoting
long.
that.
That Team 1260 logo. That version.
Well, here
We
you
weren't
are.
to have that one for long.
Here you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything seems to be going great from what I've been watching. Anyway, I've been enjoying.
Well, great enough. They did have to lower their standards to bring me on today. So
Gee, you were one
I
of
don't
our
see it
first
like
guests.
that at all.
you know what? I don't care about being one of the first. I just want to be the first one to 5. I want that
I
jacket.
told you. I hope
First,
you like
well, that
velour.
doesn't. Well, Gager's already there, I think.
Is he? Well, he's
Well,
got a
because he
regular-
comes in every Thursday.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
right.
he's a
that's-
regular though. So we got to
No,
put him
that's
aside.
That's not. He's not a guest at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's fair.
Yeah, he's a regular.
So
But that's like Saturday Night Live. We have a
Yeah.
multi.
point. Except not funny.
Well,
No,
hey,
you're
listen.
funny.
Quinn's at 3.
Really? Already?
Yeah, she's a go-getter.
Murray's at 3.
Wow.
JMO's got 2.
He's got 2. Sexy's got 2.
Jerry's got 2.
I did have
Now
to
you got
duck
2
out on
now.
you guys last week.
Yeah.
I bought a house.
Congrats.
Thank
Wow.
you.
well
Thank
done.
you. Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
Does it have a helipad?
No,
Not yet. Yeah.
That's gonna be
going
the
in.
thing you're gonna
Not
build.
yet.
Forget the pool. That's going in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's never gonna see a helicopter on, but boy, am I gonna be popular in the neighborhood.
You
Beer
never-
fridge?
You build
in
it,
the
they will
garage?
come. Is that not the thing? You build a helipad, somebody with a helicopter is going to land it there, and now you all of a sudden have a helicopter.
You never know.
Exactly.
You never know.
Has anyone tried it? No.
Drones,
so now you
maybe.
try it.
Yeah.
And see, I'm scared of drones.
I respect this very much.
I'm scared of the idea of drones delivering all the Amazon packages. We're just going to have like thousands of drones just flying in the air,
Yeah.
coming down, dropping off things. That makes me,
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that too.
that's a little weird.
But I don't
Welcome
know.
to the future, right?
Exactly. Well, look at us here.
Yeah.
Remember when? Okay, this is dating myself, but everybody was talking about, oh, in the future we're gonna have Jetson phones where you like people's faces pop up and you talk directly to it. Now it's like, don't even think about that stuff.
Well, because we have FaceTime. It's close enough.
Even
You,
better.
like, it's all calls, you still see in the
You
face.
have it-
It's
you
not
have it
like
in
this little
You have it in your pocket. It's not like a
Hologram.
TV screen in the Jetsons' home, right? It's
Well, look at you guys here. So listening to Dusty and Eric on the way in today, because we have the ability to take our little mini computer that we can hold in our hand. I download your link and then just pump it right through my system in the car. Great. The sound is perfect. Was great. Loved the chat on the way in. And to me, it's the wave of the future. There's a lot. Things are always evolving and changing, right?
You know what I was impressed with this morning? I punched in Edmonton Sports Talk into my nav, and boom, it was there.
There you go.
I'm like, all right.
Fantastic.
Hey.
This
So
is
now
a, this is
there's
a
no
real
pressure.
place.
Really?
No pressure at all now to entertain.
No,
Because I don't
not
think
at
we've added our address to anything out there.
People
You
will
know what?
find you.
That should have worked.
They know. They know. You guys are on the grid.
all. Oh, baby.
Oh, that's scary.
yeah.
We don't want to. We're trying to hide that as much as we can until somebody comes and tries to shut this down for some reason. We've basically shut down the Seductions massage place over there.
You're
What do you
talking about
mean?
flying helicopters into residential neighborhoods and landing them, so that
That's
might
true.
be one
That's-
reason.
Whoops.
Yeah, that's not probably good to not draw attention. It's having helicopters come and go at all hours of the day and having valet outside. Yeah, maybe a
it's
little bit
okay.
of unwanted attention.
I'm still worried about finding the vehicle later, but might be in the back.
You'll find it.
Well, you
It's
have a catalytic
It might not
converter,
have
though.
seats.
Yeah.
That's
It might
okay.
not have a radio. It might have a few things missing. You might have a spare tire put on, but
Engine.
you'll still have it.
I guarantee you will find a vehicle out there.
I just can't believe I fell for that shtick. I thought I was above that, but I guess not. So
Coach Mike texts in 780-218-9999. Stupid Calgary. Bryn and Jake for life. Coach
thank
Mike.
you.
There you go, Bryn.
thanks, I appreciate that.
No
I talked to
Jake
Jake.
doing?
I actually talked to Jake about a week and a half ago.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. He's in Kelowna.
Excellent.
Just loving the life. He's kind of a chilled individual, as he's always been. So I think he's having a good time there.
Nice.
So
Hey, thanks for not bringing Gene Principe on this time, so like the rest of us have a chance to be somebody today.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, he's I love you guys, but he's like my favorite guy in town, if not.
don't
of
you
all
find
time.
Gene annoying?
Oh, he's that too, by
is
the way, too.
Gene not annoying and really irritable? Like, I mean, nobody. No, I'm being sarcastic.
being
Actually,
sarcastic,
Gene and I go back to the University of Alberta. We both started at CJSR, which is the campus radio
Yes,
station.
that's one of my favorite radio stations to listen to
And
this
when
day.
you take a look at some of the sports people that went through that like there obviously Gene was there, I was there, Bob Stauffer was there, John. Did I actually mention John Sexsmith?
Nope.
No,
Was he on
Johnny-
CJSR?
Yeah, Johnny. Actually, John had a music show, and he went under the handle Phil Harmonic.
Oh, of course he
And
did.
I know. Of course, that's not going to shock anybody.
He was Gene before Gene was.
Well, you know what? I think it might have been something in the water because both Gene, myself, and John have this horrible pun thing. I don't know if it's because we were brought up on Shakespeare or what it is, but I often wondered if Ron McLean went to the University of Alberta, whether or not there was a water thing there.
Question, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. Didn't Gene start the pun thing like 2007-ish, or was he always like that?
Gene's always been sharp. He's
Yeah.
always been one of the nicest guys. The one thing, I'll tell you a couple of quick Gene stories. So, have taken the oldest stepson to Dallas. Well, you know, I bring Jake
Yeah.
down to Dallas, and we decided we were going to go out for a nice steak dinner. So we went to this steak restaurant. The name I cannot remember.
Was it Trulux?
That's it.
So good.
Fantastic. I didn't know
So good.
all it was just recommended to me by a few people. So Jake and I show up for this dinner, and you guys all walk in. There's you, Gene, Jim Matheson. There's a few other people. I think Kevin Quinn might have been part of that.
Quinner
group
would have been
back
there.
in
He
the time.
loved the chocolate cake.
Oh, but anyway, Gene comes over to sit down and chat with us, and he didn't have to chat to me because we chat all the time. But I always remember he chatted for about 10 minutes with the stepson about where you're going to school, that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, that's the kind of guy he really is.
Yes.
He's got time for everybody, and so I know not everybody likes the shtick. I personally, it's part of the fun for me. Watching a game is that what's Gene going to do tonight? And
It's
then
different
let's-
than what they
And
usually
then
do.
let's fasten our safety belts and watch a hockey game.
Yep.
But that's Gene, and Gene's about as real as they get. And I've got lots of time for Gino.
To Jerry's point, on the road, he is the most popular person. Every arena you go to, from like the security people to the PR teams and the auxiliary staff, they're always like, Gene, hey, I've got this idea for you. I've got this stuff. I've got props you can use. And Gene will be like, okay, I can incorporate that because I was thinking this. And it's never, no, sorry, I'm not doing that tonight. He's just so kind.
A hot dog
so
outfit.
I understand, G.
A hot dog outfit. Yeah, I could figure out a way to.
Yeah.
Those road or like the broadcast crews on the road, they must just love because it's different.
Oh, yeah.
No one else is doing that, and they must love when Gene comes because
talks
there's
to
going to be
everyone.
something different that's going to happen to start a game. It's his first one tonight.
That's
He
right.
hasn't done
is.
one this season
Yeah.
yet, so I'm intrigued how he starts off the Gene Principe. This is why the Oilers have struggled the first two games.
Oh,
There's been
Gene.
no Gene magic
we're getting to the root of it.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
Oilers. How have we not discussed this over the last couple of days of these losses?
No
Is there
Gene, no
panic?
win.
I got to ask you guys: is there a little panic right now? Because I know they're 2 games in. I don't worry until game 10. I think right now they just seem a little. I think they seem to be a little conscious of their style that they've changed defensively. Right?
Well, I can tell you, I spent the last 6 months covering the worst football team I've ever seen in the history of planet Earth.
Yes, you
so,
have.
so panic is probably relative right now, 2 games in. But I don't know.
Based on what I've seen so far, like there's disappointment from the defensive core so far. There's disappointment from the goaltending a little bit. Stuart Skinner, not Campbell as much. But I'm actually surprised that there hasn't been the panic. We're not getting
Internally?
just from fans, even just
Well-
in the chat. Like, look, there's always going to be a small
I'm hearing
minority.
A little bit of that.
There's
Yeah.
a small minority, but I think the most people are realizing it is just 2 games. I feel like I've seen worse from Oiler fans of losses where it's not like, again, yeah, there are some that say trade Leon Draisaitl in the first for Casey DeSmith. Those
Hang on,
happen.
that was the worst caller in the history of 1260 that thankfully now goes and does it to other stations.
So, like, that's still always going to be. The Oilers could have gone 81-0 and they lose the 82nd game, and people would be like, trade everyone. But I think the majority of people are still okay because it is 2 games in.
There's 2 factors for me. You take a look at the whole defense core. They've all been awful. It hasn't been 1 or 2 guys, and the rest have been okay. I think they've all been awful, and I think that they're struggling with the zone defense coverage right now. And the other thing, too, and I firmly believe this, I remember talking with Kevin Lowe on a road trip one time when I worked for the team, and he always said that if it was tough to win the first cup, it was tougher to win the second one because you never, ever had a night off where you could kind of sleepwalk your way through a couple of periods and then turn it on in the third period. If these guys don't come out and play a full 60, they're going to get their ass kicked.
Yeah,
because
like they
Vancouver
did.
played like they were scared. They don't want to get embarrassed. And they played really well, I thought, in the 2 games. In a market like this, nobody ever wants to consider the opposition. They never ever think about, gee, you know what? Maybe the opposition played well today. It's far easier to blame and criticize your team than maybe congratulate the other guys for playing exceptionally well. And Vancouver deserved, I thought, both of those. I thought the way they played, I thought they deserved both W's.
Talkett's got them firing for sure.
Yeah.
What I love is that you went from what you call the worst football team you ever covered to covering this Oilers team, and they go 0-2 to start.
It's
you don't
you know
even.
what?
It's supposed to be the Stanley
Wait
Cup
a
year
minute.
for them, and right away you get 2 losses to
Forget
start.
Taylor Swift. I'm the problem.
Well, okay, couple things. Gerry, you were down there yesterday. What's your sense of the group and listening to? I know Kane made that joke, but
Yeah, sure. And why not? Why not brush it off? I mean, what did McDavid say heading into the regular season? He's like, last year I think we were 10-10 before we finally got going. So I don't know. They play a lot of games in hockey. It's not like football where 2 weeks into the season you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, they start. What are they? 2.4% of their schedule is in now. So
That much?
that much.
yeah.
And they've got 0 to show for
And
it.
0
you
Stanley
guys.
Cups to show for it at this point. Yeah.
But the panic thing, Bryn, and I'm glad we get that perspective from Gerry because you get a sense of okay, how are the guys within the team handling it? But then when you talk about the panic, I mean, and then not complimenting the opposition post game, Bryn, we're sitting doing the show, and I said, and to Gerry's point, I made a comment, and I said the Canucks were like a dog on a bone, like they were hustling everywhere on the ice. And I think it was Carmen. Carmen's a frequent texter, and he listens, and we appreciate that and watches. He's like, or no, it wasn't Carmen. It was someone else. It was Michael. And he goes, dog on bone. What are you talking about? They got outshot 40-16. I'm like, that's not the point.
That wasn't the story of that game.
Yeah. And yes, DeSmith made some big saves, but they also, Vancouver blocked 25 shots. And the opportunities that they did get, guess what?
Kept them in the perimeter. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they
perimeter shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, they're in Nashville now. They're on the road for a little bit. I've seen how great road trips can be for teams, pulling them together. Yeah. I don't think this couldn't come at a better time, actually. I think if they were on a homestand, this might have been a little more awkward because we know that the Edmonton sports space can be a little intense at times.
Good word.
Yeah, what about this? What if Vancouver is that good, right? Like, it's such a hard thing to even pull out a measuring stick at this point.
We'll know by November. I think.
Well, it goes back to the typical, U.S. Thanksgiving. Are you a playoff team? Are you not? The stats of getting playoffs. But when you get to that point, you're a quarter of the way through the season, and we have a better idea of kind of who's the pretenders and who's the contenders. And are the Canucks, I don't think the Canucks right now would be a team I'd still put going for the top of the Pacific, but are they a wild card team fighting for one of those spots? Maybe
Canucks?
or maybe could get third in the Pacific or something. Like, based on those first couple of games, that's a possibility for that team, I'd say.
I think they can make life miserable for teams if you're not aware.
Yeah.
You just can't take a team like that for granted, because I think they will. I think, as I say, these two losses, you don't know. If you take a look at how the Oilers did last year, where they just missed winning the Pacific during the season by a point.
Yeah.
Will we be looking back at the very first two games of the season, and let's say they don't make it by 2 or 3 points, we're going to be thinking, man, if they'd only won one of those two Vancouver games, you can't let teams like this pull you down a little bit.
Well, I'm thinking of missed opportunities stumbling out of the gate. They got shellacked in Montreal the one afternoon, and that could have been the difference last season. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's the December-January slump too that happens every year. As long as they don't have that this year, they'll be fine.
That's a good point you bring up, Bryn. I mean, what if they can lose as badly as they did in that opener, and then come out in that first, 5, 6, 7 minutes of that game two, and I think that's how everybody expected them to start the season,
right?
And they didn't do themselves any favors by how they finished the last couple of years and just keeping those expectations rising, right?
It's I got to ask you, because you've done this flip now from football over to hockey. How are you finding that? How's it for you?
You mean people reading my stories now?
Well, but it's just,
it is a hockey town. Nothing against it, and people love the football team here, regardless of what happens on the field. And you know what? I've made a career in this town off of that green and gold club. And you know what? I love the CFL, love the league, love the fans, and it's been fun to watch. You start following anything, and you start seeing the soap opera going on in behind, and what maybe isn't exactly happening on the field all the time, but you hear the stories and get to learn the cast of characters, and you're going to be invested. I bring it back to pro wrestling. All 2 times I've sat down in this chair now. But there's more going on. It's the soap opera. It's not all the moves in the ring sort of thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to is figuring out the NHL from a front row seat and seeing all the things going on, not just behind the scenes, but just all the stories, everything Gene digs up on the guys, because he, like you say, he can talk to anybody like that. So the players are going to spill their guts to him, just not in front of the camera or anything, but he knows everything going on. And, the rest of us down there finding stuff out. And that's the interesting thing about sports to me. It is the greatest reality TV going.
Well, the other thing too, and my approach on interviewing was some days I'm going down there with a mic, and radio, and you just kind of work your way around the room a little bit. You try to find out something a little different about a player. Maybe they've just got a new dog, and you start talking. You try to relate a little more. And the other one for me is I hated doing interviews standing up over top of players.
Yeah.
The big thing for me was always to sit down next to them, as they're undoing their skates or whatever, just to chat, because you want to, and if there was some little tidbit where a player maybe gave you something and you thought, hey, that's kind of an interesting angle on something. Can I use that at some point, or do you want to talk about that? And then I would pull up the tape recorder or whatever or the digital player and do an interview with a guy. But I always felt that you had to build a relationship with a player, and the worst way of doing it is with a camera right behind you or a microphone right in front of you. So
I want to ask you this because it's kind of popped up recently. When you were working with the team, how often was media in the room, and how much of a detriment is it not being in the room and having guys come out to a wall or a board, let's say?
I will tell you, watching the sideshow during COVID was interesting because part of the deal is if a player, this is how it always was with me, and I know you probably had the same thing with the football club. If a guy didn't like the way you had portrayed him or a particular story maybe he was involved in, or you might have been a little extra critical of a player, the best part about being able to go down into that locker room afterwards is that the guy could pull you aside.
Yep.
He could go around the corner, as we always say, just around the corner. And I when I say have it out, it's not a yelling and screaming thing, because I was always one of those guys. Anytime you have a problem with something I said and you don't like it, if you're going to try to showboat and yell across the room at me here, you've lost me.
Yeah.
Right? Don't hesitate to come over and just pull me aside and say, I didn't like the way that played out today.
Why
or whatever.
did you say that?
So during the COVID episode where the wall was strictly up, and the only time the media guys saw the players is when they got trotted out into the Hall of Fame room. No wonder we've got the "why you so pissy" comments. There was never an opportunity for the media guys who were conduit. I have always been a believer that the media people have to be an extension of the fan base. Right?
Yep.
You can never lose the fact that really you're the spokesperson for the fans when you go into that locker room. It's your job to find that story that fans would like an interest in. It's still that way.
Yep.
Even though things have changed dramatically. But watching the way it played out through that entire episode with COVID was really painful for me because I've been on both sides. And I think that there's not quite as much access to players now as there used to be. It used to be pretty crazy. Back in the day, I hate to use that term, where you had constant access to players all the time. I kind of miss that because it was always fun. I'll go back to the 80s when I started covering the Oilers as a kid. Mm-hmm. It was always kind of neat. You were even on the team bus at times. And I mean, that would never happen now.
No.
They keep you as separated as they possibly can. But you develop really good friendships and relationships with those guys. I don't think that's ever going to happen anymore. It doesn't have to happen, but I like that, and I kind of miss that a little bit. I like to be able to have a conversation with a player that is not about pucks and sticks and nets and goals and that kind of thing. So I miss that.
I had a 5-minute conversation with Ryan McLeod. Didn't even start the mic, and it was just about clothing.
Yeah.
And he brought it up, and I was like, oh. Okay, he's like, hey, well, what about that? I'm like, I don't like this, and we were just shooting the breeze, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. I only need 2 or 3 minutes, and then that's good. And then he gives you the whack, says, "Good to see you. We'll talk soon."
Yeah,
and that's it. That's all it is. We're not. I'm not digging for, hey, what's your deepest, darkest secret, so I can hold it against you if you don't give me a good clip next time. It's just the casual stuff. Jerry, you've been in this business for a long time.
Did the Elks ever get back to that? Because they used to do that. Ed shut the room down. Did it ever open up again where you could go have that conversation and stall next to a player?
They tried, and then it kind of fades in and out, and it's just people get used to it. It's easier, just more streamlined, and it's almost like assembly line quotes. You just kind of get in and get out, but you lose that quality, and that's hard to measure as well. We don't know what stories we're not getting with there's fewer and fewer of us too, not only in the city, but just the way the industry is going. So it's too bad.
There's one other thing too, and I see this happen a lot. There are some guys that are really media savvy and they know how to deal with the media guys, right? I get a little frustrated because I hear people talking about how Connor is so stilted when really
he's been trained.
He has been, but all he's got to do is a simple little thing. So he's around Gene Principe. Let's use Gino as an example. He's around Gene all the time. At the end of the interview, you just got to say one thing. Thanks, Gene. And all of a sudden people go, oh, wow, that's a real person.
Yep.
Right now, people just look at him as being totally conditioned to, I am out here speaking, I'm out here talking. Little things like that can really make fans start to see players a little differently, I think.
He's opened up a lot, I think, since last
He
year.
He's
has.
way better.
Hey, he's
Yeah.
real. Like there was a change last year. You could tell
Yeah.
in the way he handled the media, and like even his quote about Pride Tape from last week.
Yeah.
You won't get that from Connor in his first couple years in
No.
the NHL.
No.
But it seems like he's taken on knowing that he's the face of the game. Like it's his over not Sydney's anymore. He's taken that, and it seems like he's carrying that. And like when the Pride situation comes up with the tape and the NHL banning it, he felt like it seemed like he felt like he needed to be the one to say something.
He
on it.
knows those questions aren't going anywhere, and there will be more and more. And he is, by nature of who he is, he's going to be asked that sort of stuff. So good on him. It's interesting you bring up Sidney Crosby because he is the worst for that. Just he might as well be a robot sitting in his locker room afterwards. And then at the same time, there's Ovechkin, right? They both came in right around the same time, and Ovechkin's like taking video of himself spinning donuts in his Lamborghini in Moscow or wherever too, and it's just like, wow, that's like
Almost taken out by that closing door on that cart that one time.
Yeah.
Or he's buying jackets for homeless
Yeah.
people in Edmonton. I mean, that was a great story. And I guarantee you that happens way more than just in Edmonton.
Yep.
That's the kind of guy he is, I think.
So, and it's not just McDavid and Crosby who are being conditioned like that. These kids coming up, as soon as they're at that level, that they're repping their whatever. It's like, okay, this is how you answer. It's all textbook, and I've noticed that in hockey way more.
What have you noticed of Connor Bedard so far? Because from my perspective from the far, feels a little more open early on, a little more
We can only
fun.
hope.
Yeah.
Like it
Is this-
seems like that.
Is it the pendulum swinging back, maybe? Or no?
Well, I think,
Or is he an outlier?
you want to talk about maybe there was a change in Connor here in the last year or so. And I'd heard, and this is coming off the back end of the COVID mess, I'd heard that Speck and Connor had a brief conversation. And
Well,
it was,
that's
They had a
Connor,
few.
and like at the end of a post game.
Well, no, there was more than that.
But
there was that one that I know.
They've had some
there
discussions.
was a thing that I'd heard where the two of them were talking about the fact that, look, and we all know in broadcasting that if I said it was a beautiful day out there, that out of 100 people, 40 would be getting right back to me and saying, it is a crappy day. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I heard that the conversation revolved around the fact that don't be afraid to say how you feel because you're worried that someone's going to crap all over you. People are going to crap all over you anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well get it out the way you want to get it out there. Don't be scared to do it if you feel. And I think that the Pride tape is a classic example of, hey, listen, that's how I feel. If somebody doesn't agree with me, okay, well, you're entitled to that opinion.
That's fine,
right?
yeah.
So I think that if players understood that, look, if you want to make people happy all the time, then sell ice cream.
Athletes also today have an ability to market themselves outside of traditional media. They're all of a sudden their own advertising agency. This is who I am. It's all over my socials. And if somebody in quote unquote traditional media makes me look a different way, you can always come back to what I do every day.
Yeah.
I look at Alphonso Davies and he connects to fans via Twitch.
Yeah.
He goes on Twitch, he streams whatever he's playing, and he's talking to people while he's doing that. And he's skipped almost the media in a sense to connect with his fans, where they could just directly ask him a question. He could pick and choose what he wants while he's playing as Bayern Munich, taking on Liverpool and whatever it's called now. It's not FIFA anymore. It's called EA Football or something. I can't remember what it's called.
When you
But that's
told
how
me
it's
they
just all
lost a
changing.
FIFA license, I was bewildered.
That's one of the number one selling games in
I
sports, and
know.
it's not now. Yeah, it's not going to be called FIFA anymore. It's again EA Football or something like that.
So do they have the club team names and players, or
I
do they
think
have
so.
the play?
I think so because that's not.
But they just can't call
That's
it
not
FIFA.
that's not a FIFA deal.
That would
That's a
be
deal with
leagues.
you'd go to your
Yeah.
respective leagues. You can Premier League,
Players
you
Association.
go to UEFA,
Yeah.
you go to all them, and you
Gotcha.
can maybe get those
Premiership,
deals.
whatever.
But
Gotcha.
So they figured they don't need FIFA.
well, I think FIFA wanted too much money.
Of
or
course.
something.
What?
FIFA?
You wanna know
bad.
something?
Are you kidding?
That is an organization that is trying to make it, guys.
The,
Can we just have a little respect?
the mafia.
For-
Ching,
An
ching,
org-
ching, ching,
An
ching.
organization that's just trying to bring football to the world. They do it for the love of the game.
Yes.
and
With
nothing
the
else.
children.
It's hands in
Absolutely. Kinda
every
like the
pocket
IOC.
at every level
100%.
across the world.
NCAA,
No.
they're all just student athletes, baby.
It's from the heart.
100%.
That's an office that will never get rated
No.
by any
And-
intelligence
Nor
bureau.
should it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone trying to look at FIFA and thinking they're doing something bad, you just hate football.
FC24, it's called. Thank you, Coach Mike.
FC24? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Just
that's
FC?
what FC.
There you
Okay.
go.
Yeah, that's
EA
what Coach
Sport-
Mike
FC
said.
Hey,
24.
is this a new? Should I actually have my phone here? Should
Oh,
I
yeah.
I've got the text line going.
I've got
I'm
the
not-
YouTube chat.
you guys have
Sorry,
been
Bryn.
doing this.
You've always
just-
got to be doing something
You guys
more
have been
important
doing
than the
this.
Hangout when you're
No,
on
no,
the
no.
Hangout.
I'm
I've got
monitoring the
YouTube
text
chat
line.
for the nasty chat to
I'm
see
the
if people
rookie
listening.
guy.
'Cause
Well, you know what? People can get a hold of you guys.
I'm just
Yeah,
watching
that's-
what
I'm enjoying having
I'm just
coffee.
watching what Nielsen's tweeting from next door.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Nathan's got good morning.
Okay.
Lars Y saying that's where JMO lands his helicopter for the helipad. Surveyor
yeah,
Brett
yeah.
says good morning, hangouter. So yeah, no, I'm also watching us.
All right,
I don't know why I
that-
don't just pause.
Make
that.
sure.
good.
I don't
Someone
need the actual
texted in and
video.
said the feed was a little bit on the on the
Looks a
on
little
camera
choppy,
side.
yeah.
A little choppy.
On the annoying side.
Are we
Was
doing
that-
okay?
when was
Matthew?
that? When did that
That
come
was
in?
like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, earlier we had a little bit of an issue like at the
Okay,
start,
we're
but
all-
it's
we're
all
all
good.
good over
You
here?
see the green right there?
Maybe that's me.
That's all
It's not
good.
the
Yeah,
feed. It might
that's
be
all that
me.
matters.
No, you're good, Bryn.
I've already complained about the guests this morning, so
Well, now you're not getting the velour jacket.
yes, I am.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
first one to do it too.
I told you, gold embroidery.
It's not. It's a bathrobe. Let's
Yeah,
not kid
no.
each other.
Okay, fine.
We should
bathroom.
get something. And the
Yes.
people,
Yes.
and they wear
He
it
brought
for the
this up
whole
in the press
hangout.
box the other
Bathrobe
day.
is the way to go.
course.
Yeah.
And then
Go
you
with the
take it
velour
off,
bathrobe.
and the next person that comes that hits 5, they have to wear it.
Paraded
Only
around the home
5'10".
locker room at Rogers.
You can get a green bathrobe. I'm sure green jacket, green bathrobe. Nice touch.
This is a good point.
right.
I was thinking like the Crown Royal look. I feel like it's an elegant look. Gold.
Yeah.
Gold embroidery with that velour
With a
purple,
chain,
yeah,
like a
chain perhaps.
with a clock on it. Or
People
Yeah,
saying the
something
audio is
classy.
good, but video is a bit choppy.
Sorry
I have
about
no
that.
idea what's going on. Oh, I can see that.
You
Yeah,
can
now.
see it. There, yeah.
Here, let me see if I can fix that. You guys
All right.
keep having a chat.
All right.
All right, okay,
We can
all right.
continue this conversation. Anyway, so I brought up that thing because, like, we know the trainers need to do their work. The team's hopping on
Yep.
buses, and the trainers are, or not, they're hopping on the plane right away.
Management is happy. You got to make sure that the players are happy. But you're right about the equipment guys. Those guys are the heart. They're the real heart
Yes.
of the hockey or the football team. Then a lot of the great guys make it look like. But I got a lot of time for those equipment guys too.
And they not
Yes.
like back in
Oh.
your heyday of
Well,
hoisting the trophy.
the right
like that.
teams do it separately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It should be there should
Yeah.
be a separate part of the media relations team that does nothing but socials. Right?
Budget.
Yeah.
Budget. How much do you
get
want
it,
to
yeah.
spend?
There
How much
should-
can you get back?
there should also be some sort of system in place where the CFL isn't making it so you need to buy general managers who can also head coach. So it's all over the place.
This is a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that better?
I think it is. I took out the audio for a little bit there by accident, and we lost the camera for a bit.
Oh, great.
So
Perfect.
Good
most of it
job.
was there.
So-
Most of what you guys said happened.
You know what? You
But-
could do that for the next hour and a half, and we'd still just sit around here and doing the
People
same
might
thing.
actually-
Well, we
love
did
it.
it one show. It was with Will. Our internet went down, and we didn't know that we were off the air. And we talked for like another 10 minutes before we finally realized we were off. And we lost some good audio in that one.
Your best stuff.
The key is our program. And it's a good thing we used on this one. It had an update yesterday. They emailed us, and we got an update to fix issues.
Right.
And we updated this one, not the main one. And clearly, the update's not that great. 'Cause it's
Awesome.
causing
You'll get
issues.
there.
Now, well, Luke,
Everything's
in
been
Cowtown.
fine until today. Now, when we updated our program, so thank you, Wirecast.
Yeah.
It's me.
It's
Big
you?
G. Luke in Cowtown says, now you've turned everything off. All good now.
There we go.
Yeah,
It's fixed.
So
The other one says, whatever Maddie just did ruined the live stream. That's from RCN.
yeah.
Everything was fine until Matthew.
Yeah. Well, not everything was
Went
fine.
to
The
fix
video
it.
wasn't good. We got the messages saying the video wasn't good.
That's funny.
You're just lowering the bar, just showing how bad it could be.
Exactly.
So enjoy what you have.
Way to go,
Yeah, we're on
Maddie.
the air. We're on the air still. I
yeah,
double
we're
checked.
good. I know.
You always have the bar as low as possible.
Aim low and achieve.
So then you've succeeded.
Yeah.
If people think like just us getting on the air is the bar, perfect.
Under
We
promise,
accomplished
over deliver.
it. Always. It's Mac T, when he had those big, bold moves, all that summer,
yeah.
he didn't make the bold moves. Everyone was upset because he made the
consequences.
promises.
Yep.
Bryn Griffiths, Gerry Moddejonge, Tom Gazzola, Matt Iwanyk with you here on the EST Hangout. Those listening online and watching us on YouTube now that everything is fixed. This is wonderful. This is what it's supposed to be. If the Oilers were to lose tonight, is it panic time?
Jerry,
I mean,
you guys.
How are they going to lose? Because we've seen a couple different ways.
Yeah.
One was markedly more panic worthy.
So
Yeah.
they lose a close hockey game, 1-0.
Who scores? Does
Well, Nashville scores because it was 1-0.
Well, okay, but okay. Who scores for Nashville? No. Okay. Does McDavid score? Is it even strength?
So there's tiers to.
Is it a goalie problem that led to the winning goal?
Okay, I'll flip this because this question came up in the morning show today. Let's say the Oilers win 6-4 tonight. Are people happy about a win, or is there panic about poor goaltending or / defense?
The answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
That's how this town works.
little bit of both,
right? But I think really, I remember Craig McTavish once said, I don't critique the wins. At the end of the day, you put the 2 points in the bank and you move on to the next game. It's Philadelphia, right? Thursday night, I believe.
Yes.
So I think, I guess if you want to talk about something and you didn't like the goaltending or you thought the defense wasn't very good, you can do all that. But I think that the goal for them is just to get a little positive momentum going.
I want to see domination. I want to see the reigning top 2 league leading scorers connect and click either together or on both their lines. I want to see them rack up goals. I want to see them. I want to see it to the point where whatever the defense does doesn't even matter. Whatever the goalie does, as long as it's enough to keep it out of the net more than the other team.
That's setting the bar high.
Well, and this is the team, though, that they do it against.
Yeah.
Like we said, Leon Draisaitl has not scored more goals against any other team except the Winnipeg Jets. Like the same with Nashville and Winnipeg. Can't remember what I saw today, was 22 goals, I think, career-wise. Both against Winnipeg and Nashville. Leon Draisaitl owns the Nashville Predators, and this Oilers team, they're 8-0-2 in their last 10 against the Preds. If you're looking for that team to break out 5-on-5, if you're looking for that game that the big guns put up massive amount of points, if you're looking for who that opponent would be, I think just what you would hope for if you're an Oilers fan, if you could pick that team, it would almost be the Predators.
Are you making a promise for tonight?
Well, I don't want to make betting everything about betting, but our bets for today were Oilers -1.5, so winning by 2 goals or more, and Leon scoring tonight. Like it just seems like it's just too obvious based on the history of what this team and Leon have done against the Predators. So yes, I am making that.
Okay,
prediction.
then let me ask you this: how bad does it have to get before it's panic time?
5 games.
Yeah, I think 5 games for me.
0-5?
Yeah.
Who's Saturday again?
Winnipeg.
It's Winnipeg.
Yeah. The other thing, too, and going into this season, everybody says, so what are you watching for? Well, everybody says they're watching the goaltending. Everybody says, going to watch a few guys back on the blue line. Can the power play be as unbelievably dominant as it was last season? The one thing that I'm watching right now very carefully, I'm watching the coach. Because I thought there were times during the playoffs last year where I felt, man, he's just a little too stubborn here. He's got to be a little more flexible in some situations. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this radical lineup change going into the game tonight is an example of panic, or he's just trying to see what he's got. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll see what happens. If they win tonight, I guess he's gambled correctly, but I think I'd like to see him be a little more of a riverboat gambler at times and not be quite so stubborn is the word I'm going to use.
He's also got to do things that elicit a response from his players at the same time. It's not all about, I'm going to do this and the fans can see me doing this. He's more worried about, let's poke this bear a little bit. Let's switch some stuff around and see who comes out firing.
I'd be intrigued. Like for a panic for me, one way I could panic potentially a little bit tonight is if the defense plays poor again and Matthias Ekholm doesn't look right. Because then like we saw last week in Vancouver, the defense didn't play well when Matthias Ekholm wasn't there. And then on Saturday, he just didn't look right. And if that's now a concern for this team, that one, they don't play well with Matthias Ekholm, not being at 100% healthy, and he's not 100% healthy, that could be like, oh boy, what could that turn into?
Yeah.
So that's the one way I think tonight I could start going, oh, this isn't good, and this isn't something that is an easy fix if you're looking at the health of one defenseman who's now maybe not healthy, being so important to that team defense playing so well.
Yeah, groins can be a nasty, long, lingering thing too, and that's, but injuries always hurt more.
Yeah.
Little bumps and bruises always hurt more in a loss, and as those losses pile up, so does all the other stuff, and that's where the snowball comes.
Really quickly on groin. Remember, Ekholm said groin, but we were told hip flexor.
Yes.
I caught that yesterday when he was talking about the groin, and I'm like, groin? What the hell? Why are we being told hip flexor? Deception, baby.
One side or the other, I
Yeah,
guess.
I'm going to tell you right now, all through training camp, I felt that there was something not being told there.
Yeah.
And I still am not convinced that we've been, and really, they don't
what's
have
worse?
they don't have to tell us exactly what's wrong.
No.
However, what if it was an abdominal muscle issue? And we've seen guys where they've missed half a season with that kind of stuff, or it's been, they're under no obligation to tell us or tell the fans really what it is. But I'm not buying everything I'm hearing on this front. It concerns me a little.
I want to flip on that a little bit. If you're going to be a league that embraces gambling, though, do you not now have to actually give that info out there? If you are going to be a league that now, this is all sports. This is all
Football
sports.
League is completely up front. I don't.
They're not full, but their injury reports are detailed
better.
every day. Type thing like that. It's a certain point, then it's released every day. They have to do the outs, questionables. You know what kind of weird, like around the body it kind of is. They don't do just upper, lower. If you're going to be a league that wants to get in with MGM or whoever it is, do you not actually have to give it now? And that's been something I've been wanting the last couple of years as these leagues start doing that is. Because I'm with you. Like, they don't owe that to anyone, but I do think if you're going to ask for billions or millions of dollars from these people, you owe them at least the information they need to do this.
So the moment you tell somebody that Leon Draisaitl's got a bad right wrist,
yeah.
how quickly, 30-second mark, 1 minute mark, the 1:30 mark of a first period, somebody's going to take a good whack across his wrist. You know that's coming. I just think you got to be really careful with that kind of thing. Now, I've lied. I've lied over a broken rib injury as a PR guy because we knew that if we put him right back out there, and I told Scott Oak outside it was a broken rib, that would be immediately upstairs to the Dallas Stars. And the next thing you know, Darian Hatcher on the very next shift is going right after the guy's ribs. I don't know what you can do.
Here's where I don't buy the conspiracy theory when it comes to Ekholm, because the groin or the hip flexor, same thing. If somebody's going to target it, they could have picked a completely different part of the body to tell
It's the lower upper body injury thing we all laugh about in the playoffs. Right? It's an upper body injury. Okay, so it's his knee.
Yeah.
Right? We all know that's how it works. Hockey is just that's the vicious side of the sport, I'm afraid. Right?
And there's only so much leagues can do before you get the Belichick's questionabling his quarterback every single week, right? And I mean, people are going to make a mockery of it or try and take advantage of it all the time. But it does have to be on the level and better when you're trying to get the bettors involved.
When you're saying we want their money and we want you to bet your money on this, and you kind of owe them the info, even though that puts your players now at risk. And then then that's where the balance comes in. Do you actually go fully into the betting and take all that money, and so you could hold back and not tell that thing? But if you go into it, do not owe bettors then as much info as they can, so that if they're placing $100 on a game or thousands of dollars on the game, they know that Leon has that injury.
So how do you justify if a guy's got a bad wrist? You can't announce that he's got a bad wrist and then throw him out there the next game. You might have to sit that guy for 3 or 4 games. And then who are you penalizing? You're penalizing season ticket holders who've paid an absolute fortune to watch these guys play.
If the injury is that bad, maybe you should be sitting him anyways.
Touche.
I don't think teams do that enough. I think they, especially in the first half of the season, they're trying to win the battle, not the war.
Well, it used to be a doctor made the final say on whether or not a guy goes out. I don't believe it's that way anymore. Yeah. I believe the player, sometimes the player's agent, sometimes the team makes that decision. I think things have changed dramatically in just the last 5 the 5 to 7 years in that regard. So I don't know. It's a good one. But at the end of the day, it's the season ticket holders who are paying good money. I don't care about the bettors. I really don't. I don't care how much money they're taking from betting sites or whatever. At the end of the day, if you're not entertaining, it's like calling off the dogs. Hugh Campbell, back in the day with the football team, got into it with a coach of the BC Lions, Vic Rapp. And Vic was upset because he felt Hugh was running up the score. And I think that was Warren Moon was the game was in Edmonton, right? So the football team here has got an obligation to the fans sitting in the seats. Hey, if you're worried about us running up the score, stop us. That's how I would say.
Wouldn't that be a nice problem for Edmonton fans these days?
Oh, man.
I hope our team doesn't run up the score tonight.
Well, there are a few nights this year where it's like you hope they just scored, and guess what? They didn't.
Yeah.
It looked like they
Twice
might run up
against
the
the same
score this
team.
past weekend, and then it all just changed.
Well, here's the thing. You get this young Canadian QB of all things, and he's not being celebrated near enough in my mind because people have been screaming for it. And yes, there are the Nathan Rourke's once in a lifetime who come along, but that's also Canadian-born, American-trained.
Right.
Trey Ford is Canadian through and through. He's made it fun to watch. He's going out there. He's killing himself, and he makes
and just an awesome dude.
Yeah,
Like he sat in that very chair, and when we had him in the studio, he was wonderful.
Unbelievable. And yet he makes one mistake the last 2 weeks. He threw an interception against Toronto. Whole team shuts down around him. He has a sack fumble that gets run back for 6 the other way last week. And same thing. Even the defense just shuts down. It's like, oh, well, there we go.
I think that missed field goal was the big turning point because you're up 26-21 or 19 or whatever was going into half.
But
as opposed to it gets returned.
Does he miss the 41-yard field goal if Trey Ford doesn't fumble that sack? And so it
right,
just
but in between that was the fumble on the kickoff return.
And it just snowballs. It just snowballs from it. And here's my favorite thing from this past week. They call their field goal unit out to kick a field goal right before the half. It's 41 yards. We all think back to when Chris Jones says, "Oh, we're going to keep this 36-year-old rookie kicker to 40 yards and in until he shows, and then we're going to move him back." So we know his range is 40 yards in Chris Jones' mind. Of course, this one is from 41. Of course, he misses. Of course, it gets run back for 125 yards, which was more like 200 yards.
Yes,
return.
This is a game he had family fly out from England to the game too.
Yes.
They show him on the big screen of the hockey game that night.
Yes.
It's like, and he's doing his Hail to the Queen or King wave now these days. But it was the same thing when he hit the game winner walk off, right?
Yeah.
And it was great. Everybody loves Dean Faithfull. Now he's like,
oh boy,
hide me.
Yeah. So and then
he was on stage with who was he on stage with at the River Cree that the Elks put out the video? I feel like that was Brett Michaels.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, Brett Michaels was in town again?
Was that before the game?
They just got a residency. There's a couple bands
He
that
is
they
a
just know
very
that they're
nice
always
guy,
in town.
though.
Of course.
But it's
Absolutely.
about getting the results.
Absolutely
on the
a
field.
very nice guy. But then he has to go out and do this pre-scheduled parade around the city and be like,
timing is everything.
smile. Timing is everything. But everything has gone wrong for
I know.
those Elks.
They
this year.
found the most unique ways of losing games this season.
Just when you think, yep.
I think they kind of got it figured out, and then, oh, wow, I never saw that coming. How did I not see that coming? Right? It's the
Unbelievable.
craziest stuff.
It
but
was.
It was a train wreck, and you could not peel your eyes from it.
Big leads against Winnipeg and Montreal blew them. So there could be 2 more wins right there. I'm not going to give the Calgary big blow because they had the comeback win. So those kind of wash each other.
The 2 SAS
The
games.
two
get
SAS
one of
games
those-
is what it comes down
You
to
just
for
get
me.
one of those games too, and that's 3 more wins, and they're a 7-win football team
lose
right
by
now.
1 yard and then lose by 1 point with the overkick in the end zone that the kid left. And then all of a sudden they're flipped in the standings.
You're in a playoffs
and
or something, or you're in that push right here till the end.
Yeah.
What happens? Now you just got that excitement, and even just that 3rd down or the 1 yard against Saskatchewan, like that sent them down for a couple. That just
set them up for failure.
they
the whole
win.
rest
They're
of the
winning
way.
a few games
Of
right
course.
there. There's just this excitement and
Of
momentum
course.
they'd have. All confidence, just
Okay,
gone.
so going into the start of the season, I thought to myself, well, they don't have a quarterback. I'm not confident they've got a quarterback. I feel pretty good, actually, with the way Ford's played. I feel confident going into the offseason that Okay, if he can keep his head screwed on straight, he doesn't get too cocky. And can they get an offensive line solid enough where he's not running for his life half the time?
And if they can re-sign him in the offseason.
Well,
and
there's
bring him
that.
back.
I think that's
There's
the number
that
one
too.
thing they need to do this offseason.
Absolutely.
I mean, is that not going to be the whole?
Well,
that's going to be the whole offseason.
People are going to be
for me.
looking at the head coach spot / GM spot. Hopefully those aren't the same the next change they make. And hopefully this whole football ops cap goes out the window because
sucks.
the experiment
Yes.
has shown them exactly how bad it can be. How hard is it for teams to dig themselves out of the bottom of this ever going up and down cycle? Normally, let alone when mistakes are made and they're compounded and you can't get out of them because you're
Yeah.
stuck financially with this.
What you have to, like, the riders of what you'd have to do with this cap moving forward, and that's you got to run out the contract so you don't get into that
And create
extra
absolute
caps
misery.
going and misery where rider fans aren't even excited for the fact that their team might be in the playoffs because you're having to waste this season so those contracts can run out so they're not on the cap while you bring in a new staff
maybe-
who then can't even have a full staff.
And maybe at the same time, not sign the next incoming head coach GM to 4-year deals like they did here, which is just
Long-term.
blows my mind.
The problem was in July, you knew even if they win one game, is that going to be enough to get this thing turned around with everything? And I never felt that.
No.
The other thing too is that I know that the Canadian football, you can have a team go 9-9 on the season and win
can.
a Grey Cup. I saw the Riders do it.
Toronto
back
did it in 17,
Toronto.
yeah.
Calgary early 2000s.
It can happen, but because that's the way the league is. But I never felt at any point in time. It was fun watching Trey's development
Of course.
through the season and exciting.
Of course.
But I never ever thought they were going to survive the way they started the season and make the postseason.
Not a chance.
The key now for me is at least if you're right, if they get him signed, well, okay, I'm feeling better about the quarterback. And now it's just a matter of can he get off to a good start?
Okay, Trey Ford has raised our expectations because let me
Absolutely.
remind you, this is the same team that hasn't won a home game until he started
Yep.
for almost 4 years.
Why did it take so long, by the way?
For Trey Ford,
Yeah.
Well,
the
Jerry-
stories start with,
Where
and
do
he
you
can
wanna
fill
go
in, but
with
it
that?
starts with in training camp, he did not look good, and Daggy looked better.
that okay, and then
That's the-
okay.
Cornelius.
By that storyline, then Cornelius gets his run,
Mm-hmm.
Daggy gets his shot, falls on his face. Then everybody assumes, okay, next guy
Straightforward.
up.
Yeah.
But no, that's, and I can tell you that the head coach's ego got in the way of making that decision earlier on. And
Is McAdoo part of that at all?
I-
Because the change happens right when also Jackson
That's
comes in as
true.
OC.
and that was as big a change as the quarterback spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would love to have seen what Cornelius could have done with an OC who doesn't make him smash his
That's
head
what
against the
Dusty
wall
says.
the entire time. And you know, Cornelius has all the tools. What if they were using him wrong? What if they were the steering wheel was reversed and they didn't know which way to drive this kid? I'm not taking anything away from Trey Ford, but I
Well,
mean,
that's where loyalty
good
went too
point.
far. Loyalty is a
Yes.
great thing to have. It's a great characteristic, but when it's now becomes a detriment to your business,
and it's
That's a problem.
obvious from the outside looking in
Yes.
that hey Chris, your best friend might be ruining this for you. What are you going to do something about it? It's too bad they had to wait until week 8 for that bye week.
Well, that was
to make this
that
all
whole
kick
thing was
in.
out there 3 weeks before they even made a move. Everybody was saying they've got to make a move. The OC's got to be changed.
Yep.
Maybe that might have made the difference,
when
right?
his former players from when Jones and
Yes.
McAdoo were here in 2015 winning the Grey Cup said, look, we used to sit there, the defense used to sit there on the sidelines calling it the Macadona offense. You know there's a problem. And they're on social media putting this out there.
Yep.
we had a former member of that team
Well-
talk to us at an Elks game saying
Yeah.
the same type of thing, and it was the players won that. Michael Riley won that. And it wasn't McAdoo's offense.
Yeah.
He was changing plays at the line.
That apparently
Riley
he's
in
calling
15.
a lot of changes at the line.
And thank goodness for the Eddie Steeles out there who actually say it like
Yes.
it is.
Called it out. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
Eddie's great.
I'm excited also about the talk about shutting the upper deck down.
That's what they did in BC, and
Worked great.
and it's come full cycle now. But that's also, and I will push this till the end. There's a big change when it's one private owner coming in with one vision, and not 9 different people pulling at different angles.
Yeah, the
How
other thing
soon is
too
that? Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
is
Bryn.
that because the season ticket base isn't as big as it used to be.
I think it's down to 15 or
it's
something.
a lot easier to piss off somebody who's in the upper deck and say you got to move down to the lower deck than if you let the size of the season ticket base grow, then you could never do it.
Yeah.
If they're going to do it, this is the time to do it.
Well, JMO was part of that team for a long time, and he told me that they tried in the past.
Yeah.
And there was just so many that
base
said
is
no,
too
and
big.
they can't do it.
Here's
now.
what they should do. They should rip off the entire upper deck. They should dig the field down, and they should build stands on where the track is now.
Right
and
up top of it.
Actually get it right into a nice.
There were
little-
plans at one point. They've been designed to lower that field
Yeah.
and then build the seats
That's
closer.
the only way you can get rid of that track, which is
Or Ed Hervey wanted at one point to slide the field to the press box. Now, so
Yeah.
that one side is right there,
I
but then
guess.
the other side, you're even further away from the
you got to
field.
dig it down. And
yeah.
it's the
You know, when
only
they
way.
built that stadium, there was actually talk and serious, legitimate talk of actually putting a
There's
retractable roof
there
on
are
it.
Yes,
Yes,
built
there are.
on it.
And
Really?
Oh, yeah?
You can
because
put a roof on it.
I remember talking to Peter Lougheed. Oh my God, this is a long time ago. And I said, "Do you have any regrets?" And he said, "I wish we'd have spent." He said, "I think it was between $3 and $5 million. We could have put a retractable roof on that thing."
That's it.
It's
It's
still
a lot of money back then, but
the,
still.
the stadium cost $33 million to build. It was 11 from the city, 11 from the province, and 11 from the feds.
Wow.
And it was going to cost anywhere from $3 to $5 million. I think that's what he told me, to put a retractable. They were a little concerned about the retractable roofs back
Right.
in the mid '70s.
Yeah.
But they thought that they might be able to do it, or at least roof it.
At least
And
roof it.
but he didn't think it was going to fly. He didn't think he could get that.
That would have been
passed,
amazing.
right? So, but
I don't even know what that would cost to be now.
Well, if you take
Because
down the
BC
upper
Place
deck,
was half a bill.
Yeah.
take the upper deck down, I bet you now you could maybe take a look at
I
it.
remember when BC Place was an airlock. It felt like I was traveling in space when I went to cover games.
Oh, yeah?
When you went to go in
Kind
through
of cool.
the revolving
And then you look
door.
up and you see that it looks like just a big spider web nobody's cleaned in 20 years. It's like, ooh. So BC Place Stadium is
Yeah.
It is
fantastic now.
beautiful now. I went and
was-
saw
it
the
was worth
Heritage
it.
Classic there, and I was like, "This is nice." And my uncle, same thing. He went and saw. He used to live in BC, and he goes, "It was a very sterile environment. It didn't look good. It felt weird." Like
The
you
only
said.
thing more cavernous and echoey was when we went to Toronto.
The Big O was pretty bad.
Oh,
too.
that is
The Big O was
that is
awful.
bad.
Was it?
Oh, it was so horrible.
Yeah.
Just horrible.
I don't think I know how that's still standing.
Was it the
I know.
Staple game? That was a hard one to watch.
76, 79?
So I think it was 79. I think it was. I can't remember. That was a long time ago.
That's
crazy.
I was a tiny tot. But I mean, some of the stadiums. I mean, what they've done with BC Place Stadium is great.
Yep.
I mean, they
Fantastic.
stole World Cup games away from Edmonton. So there's that by getting back into it. But also there's some issues. Let me just throw this out here because I've heard this a few times. Is Commonwealth Stadium really a dump?
The concourse is too small.
Okay.
It
That's
needs
the
a
issue.
little love.
Because I was told FIFA came in here and had some serious issues with the stadium.
Okay, let's look 3 hours to the south.
That's a
That
dump.
That's
football
a dump.
stadium is
That's
an
older than
absolute
me.
dump.
That's a terrible stadium.
trash.
Yeah. But we can't get into that. That's like constantly hearing the current federal government always bitch about Stephen Harper. Those days are gone, buddy.
Yeah.
Right? You can't keep doing that. So, Edmonton's got to stand on its own. And you're right, McMahon is awful. It's just awful. The Saddle Dome is ready to be replaced.
It's
and should have been
terrible.
replaced maybe 5-10 years
Yeah.
ago. But we have the facility we have here. But I'm looking at the football stadium that I basically grew up in from 77 on. And I don't think I see the stress fractures of that
Right.
stadium.
Right.
Well,
And there's
but
definitely some-
I'd have to compare it to New Mosaic or IG in Winnipeg.
Sure. But that's not Edmonton's biggest problem. The Commonwealth Stadium's biggest problem is it's too big. They could still get away with.
Yeah.
But for FIFA and
But
having
we would
issues, I
never
think
get a
it's
look.
those amenities or
However, they're
something.
getting a 45,000 seat look in Toronto at a stadium that's going to have temporary seating
Sure.
as well. So however, the difference
the weird
is
seats for one of
it's in
those.
Toronto. Toronto will play well to the international television audience. Between Edmonton and Vancouver, which city is going to look more spectacular on television?
Yeah, but there were supposed to be 3 Canadian cities, and this is where
there were. We didn't
FIFA
get any support from the Canadian Soccer Association
Right.
either.
They
quite frankly.
and on the head of CONCACAF, who's a big part of
Yes.
the World Cup United 2026 bid, he's from Vancouver, and he pushed for Vancouver to get back
Absolutely.
in. And he's the one that he put Nick Bontis or whatever, who was the president of the Canadian Soccer Association before. It was his puppet, and
Yep.
the person in charge now is still his puppet. And this guy has his hands all over Canada soccer, and he's a big problem because he's very FIFA.
Absolutely. the issues they had with the stadium here was they didn't like the distance between the field. The issues we just talked about, right?
Which that happens in
They
soccer.
have that
though.
at World Cup stadiums.
Yeah, I
though.
remember
Other-
they're
06
trying
when
to get
Italy
away
did
from
Berlin.
that.
And,
Right.
But you
They
want
don't
that
like it.
you want that atmosphere really close, and that's where like if you could dig it down and lower the field, that would be ideal.
That's a
But-
great idea.
Who's gonna? How is that money now going to be spent in Edmonton? Like, who's going to put up the cash for that? Because that's why the World Cup would have been a big deal. Because then it's okay. Let's renovate Commonwealth a little more. Let's get it better. But now that that's not coming, what's the reason to renovate for a stadium that's used 10 times a year for the Elks? Maybe a couple concerts a year, a couple other events. So what we have maybe
we
at
don't know what
most
they're
20
turning
dates.
away, Matt. We don't know what they're turning away. They may be turning away concerts because we don't have a roof. Like there might be a big show that would come through
that's
in
fair.
December or January. We have no clue on what they're actually
Or
turning
people not
away.
wanting to come because
yeah.
Exactly. And right now they have the edge. They have the stadium edge. We talk about McMahon. They'll always have the stadium edge here, even with Commonwealth Stadium.
Yeah.
Right? Eventually, we're going to lose that edge with the hockey arena once they build the new place in Calgary, if they ever dig the hole. I mean, how long is it going to take to actually get a design on the table? I don't know how far ahead they are in Calgary. I figure you still got another 2 or 3 years where Edmonton will have the concert edge indoors. But I think that if you build a facility where you could actually close the roof and open the roof when it was a beautiful night, I think that you could easily put 35,000 in there.
Try pushing that idea to the city when there's 15,000 people showing up for football games.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can put other events in there.
That's true.
Well, it's so if you, and this is where the debate comes. Like if you keep Commonwealth and try to renovate it or whatever, then you hopefully get the concerts. But it's going to be tough then with 15,000. Then it's the other side. Okay, do you build something though, where a smaller 25, 30,000 seat? I know you
Way
push
too
for a little
small.
40,
Way too small.
but then maybe you can get soccer back in town, and it fills up a few more dates, and it's
30
better.
to 32,000 seat facility with the ability to expand another
they do in
10,000 temporary
Winnipeg.
seats.
Yeah.
You win.
Yep.
That's a winner for me here in a city this size. This league is now a 20 to 25,000 seat or crowd size, right?
Out east, yes, I would suggest out west here, where Winnipeg has shown it can be done, even with a hockey team now.
30 to 35
Yep.
is out west.
Yep.
But if you sell out, you know what you do? You create demand.
Yeah.
And that's
the
the
why they're
status
closing the
of the
upper bowl.
ticket.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So
I
The
like
idea
the
is-
old Edmonton think big spirit, so I think 40 would be perfect.
Well, but this is where like having a 32,000 seat, do you get that Luke Bryan concert that comes through town, or Luke Combs or whatever it is? And that you don't, I don't think anymore. And that's where Edmonton's in this difficult spot where we actually have a stadium where the big Metallica show is going to come next summer for 2 dates. They
Right.
might not come for a 30,000 seat stadium, and Edmonton misses out on those couple events a year that are massive.
I was going to say, or do you Garth Brooks it and just do back-to-back shows and then get out of town?
But he's the only one who
He's
really
the only
does
one who
that,
can do
right?
that.
Like he's created that template.
Yeah.
and
That was
he's
If
quite
Taylor
fun.
Swift comes, she wants as many
Got him
seats
a
sold
banner.
as possible.
Of course.
She'd want Commonwealth, or does she want to do 32,000? Or
does that bother you, by the way?
It does.
Does that banner,
I
that
think
Garth
the
Brooks
Garth
banner
Brooks one.
bothers you? It doesn't bother me at all.
It's embarrassing.
You've been to MSG?
Yeah, but Billy Joel is like
He's
he's
run-
got his banner
That
and
residency's closing.
Elton John's
He's
got a
almost done.
banner up there for doing I don't know
yeah,
how many
but
shows.
those
Doesn't
two
Taylor Swift
compared
have a banner
to
somewhere?
Garth Brooks
in Kansas City.
and LA.
Is it okay?
And,
LA.
and it's mocked mercilessly. It's so bad that the Clippers don't even allow it to be displayed.
Well, they don't allow anything to be displayed in there.
Well, that's the Clippers.
And they're
but I'm
moving-
just saying,
they're moving facilities, so
the
who cares
Garth
about
Brooks,
that? That's
like,
Lakers
get
home.
that banner out of the bowl, put it on the concourse somewhere. Like it is so embarrassing.
All right, so when do we start the show?
Right, let's get going
That
here.
was a good intro. Seriously, what's on the menu for today? I'm kidding.
I don't know.
This hangout is a great idea.
I enjoy it.
Because
the only thing I'm uncomfortable here because I can't put my feet on that table.
yes, you
Why
can.
not?
Are we allowed to do that?
says
Yes,
you
of
can't?
course you
Matt,
can.
he's got
I'm not
Windex.
wearing-
I've never done this.
I'm not
Yeah,
wearing
there you go.
socks today.
We were just talking about moving these out for some lazy boy
you need
recliners.
footstools,
Yeah.
a coffee table. We're all hanging on to our coffee here.
Straight up, it's you could do whatever you want. Like this, you could go to the bathroom if you want right now. We don't care.
Right.
You do what you want.
Where do we get
you
the
wanna
chairs
go
from?
The
These
only-
were Uncle Wieners.
The only
Uncle Wiener.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these were Uncle Wieners.
Oh, okay.
The only trends that started is if you have to get up and leave, you have to like at least put the effort in to kind of duck down,
Which
even
makes
though the
no sense.
even though the camera's
you
only
got to do
hit
the
by-
army crawl.
It's what everybody does.
It's been done before.
People.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We had Quinn last Friday take a meeting mid hangout.
really.
She had like a 10-minute meeting. She left to go do the meeting and came back.
Well, Quinn's important, so she's
She's
on
got
her
a
own.
pretty
Yeah.
good. she's
And-
got a
and
pretty
it's
good
a
gig
hangout.
going.
And
but
it's a
that's the
hangout.
thing. Like if you had a meeting, like go take
Yeah.
one. Like it's just
yeah.
like come on back and we're all
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
That's the
Well, I'm
joy
kind
of
of
the show.
enjoying this.
It's
Have I upset anybody? Have I said anything? What's the
no,
other
we
item
could
on the
only
panel?
hope.
And you haven't swore yet. Guy yesterday
Okay.
dropped a bunch of swears, including the first F word in EST
He
history.
dropped an F-bomb?
He dropped the
Oh,
F-bomb.
man.
Does he get a
missed that.
jacket for that?
Thank you.
No.
I was just going to ask about that because I've had the filter going pretty good here today.
Yep.
We
So,
maintain. We've got dental offices that stream us. We've got
We had a kids like us in
elementary school,
All right, so
apparently.
If they're
Kids
watching
taking-
still and Guy
going to
hasn't turned you
school,
away,
yeah.
hello.
So we try not to get into it. Lance, by the way, backs me up via the text line 780-218-9999. I hate that Garth Brooks banner. Thank you, Lance.
Well, maybe if they decided they were going to hang some other hockey banners in there. Let's see what the hockey club does in the next little while.
The
In
Oil
the
Kings
meantime-
got a new one up there last year. That was
that's-
nice.
So that
Yeah.
place, when it was built and when it was being pushed to the city, it's not just a hockey place. It's for events. So why can't events have banners in there? Why does it have to be only sports?
Because it's embarrassing.
Because what did they do? What did they win?
Garth
Some
Brooks
ticket
came
sales.
and sold 9 straight
some
songs.
ticket
took
sales.
Edmonton's money and
Okay.
the greater Alberta.
Garth Brooks was going to do that wherever he went.
Exactly.
He
But
didn't-
he also then brought an economic benefit to the city of Edmonton.
that's fine. How do you hoist and hold a parade for an economic benefit?
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Go put it beside the Oilers banners from.
What's the other banner up there? We did 9 sold out shows in 2020. Who cares?
You know what amazes me is how irritated people can be by the stupidest stuff.
Because it is so
because it's
stupid.
irritating.
Right?
What is it? Doesn't belong up there. 99 is up there on that wall.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always amused now. And you know what? Okay, so
There's some people in Hawaii that don't care about 99. I will say that.
I think
yeah,
my
now.
whole mentality has changed since I've gone through my cancer stuff, right? I now just kind of laugh at that stuff. I just go, there's got to be more important things to worry about than a 9 sold out show banner at the stadium.
Well,
like, really?
Bryn, it's not at the top of my list of
I
things,
know,
but
I'm the one who brought it up after you
Yeah.
just touched on it. So
Yeah.
sorry about that.
no, I love this.
Okay. If someone sells out 10 out shows, 10 straight shows, though, they deserve a banner too now. Like if anyone hits more than 9, they always are owed a banner.
Okay,
Because you can't do 9
when
and
I'm
then
the
not do
first
another
to
one.
5 shows here, I don't want a jacket anymore.
want a
I
banner?
want my
I will
name.
get you
I
a
want
banner
my
here.
name
Here we
I'll
go.
I'll put
from
it
the
somewhere.
rafters.
Yeah,
But
right
no one,
there.
No one can see it on the camera.
And everybody who comes in here is going to make fun of it, and I'm fine with that.
But
I
we
don't
can't
think
even
they will.
say you
Crank
made an
and raise-
I don't
economic
think they will.
benefit to
I
our
think people are
station.
going to be jealous and they're going to want it. Maybe
Yes.
this is how the
You're
Oilers
gonna-
are trying to get more concerts.
you're
in,
going to
because
need more chairs around here.
what's going to happen is
Yeah.
artists come to Rogers, they see that banner, go, I want a banner here. And now they have to be commit to
Do you
doing a
think
multiple shows.
the last few concerts that rolled
Well,
in
Godsmack doesn't count.
looked at that and go, boy, Garth Brooks sold out 9 times in a row here. Gee
Well,
whiz.
That's all Wu-Tang talked
whoa,
about
Don't be so
on the way to
dismissive.
Yeah,
Calgary after their
Wu-Tang,
show
yeah,
on
sure.
Friday.
Don't be so dismissive of that. I'll bet you there are performers that come in and they work their ass off to sell out the building once, maybe twice, and they're thinking, how did he sell out 9 consecutive shows? Let's not dismiss 9 sellouts. That's not easy.
And Brett
I
Michaels
know.
gets a Dean faithful appearance. Every rose indeed has its thorn.
Yeah.
Now, granted, part of the 9 consecutive shows is because the Calgary place is not suitable, right?
It's also
Touche.
Saskatchewan, though, and they came.
I guess
Yeah.
I
A lot of
know
that.
Saskatchewan. They,
Garth Brooks
yeah.
fans travel.
I know. I'm well aware of it.
And I respect the hell out of that. I
Actually,
really
yeah.
do.
So here's a story about Garth Brooks. There's a guy that I used to work
Yes.
with. I don't know if you ever worked with him.
I didn't work
Johnny.
with him, but I know Johnny.
He was a PD for many years and like on air radio. He works for Garth Brooks now
Really?
and talks to him like every day, almost every so often.
Okay.
From Edmonton, some guy now is like working for Garth Brooks.
Now, has Johnny talked to him about the banner?
I haven't asked him. I
Bring
could
that
ask him.
up.
Does he talk to Garth Brooks or Chris Gaines? Is it like a mankind sort
Oh,
of
now we're going
situation?
down that
Who you're
yeah.
going to get
That's not his name.
one day or the other?
He went.
I didn't know
You
he had a
not
different
this-
I don't know.
even
much
I
of-
know
I'm
the
not a
Chris
big country
Gaines
guy.
thing.
Well, Chris Gaines was not a big country guy.
He was not. Well, it turned out he was.
He was, but he
wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
It's an alter ego.
It's Garth Brooks in a wig,
Yeah.
trying
okay.
to trying to play rock and roll.
Like an emo wig.
Was he good at rock and roll?
Well, listen, Garth Brooks is a genius. He took country music and presented it, performed it as a rock and roll show, and it caught on big time.
Also,
You guys know a lot about Garth Brooks.
he's pretty tight with
He
the
deserves
Kiss
this
guys,
banner.
right?
It's just like
He's
music.
tight with Gene and all those guys at Kiss. He's performed with Kiss.
Has he?
Yes. There have been some shows where he's actually
That
been
doesn't surprise
in the
me.
background. Hey, listen.
Please fill our listeners and our Well, I guess he's a co-host.
Yeah, facilitator.
What Chris Gaines is?
Chris Gaines was like this fake rocker that Garth Brooks came up with. He had his own look, sound, and everything.
Soul Patch.
Patch, yeah, and he had like the
that.
emo haircut, and it didn't catch.
And he tried to fool everybody into
Yeah.
thinking he was not Garth Brooks.
Yeah,
Because he got bored.
I like this.
So okay.
I gotta go look into this after the show.
Taylor Swift did the jump from country music properly into pop. Chris Gaines did not
Make the
not.
jump to rock.
take
not
on
Yeah.
as a rock and roll star.
But he
Well,
did
rock
okay,
fans
yeah.
are pretty.
They tried to fool everybody into thinking this wasn't Garth Brooks, and to this day
So they've tried doing, like, full Hannah Montana type
He
thing.
will not answer questions about Chris Gaines.
Really?
Did I derail this conversation?
no, there's no derailing
Okay,
here.
I-
This
yeah.
is where we could go so many weird places.
Derailing suggests it was on the rails to begin
That's a
with.
great point. That is a great point.
That's why Jerry just reset the show 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I had to
Wow.
get into my other alter ego.
Yes.
What's your favorite Mankind or Mick Foley persona?
Well, Dude Love,
Dude
obviously.
Yeah, okay,
Love,
that-
yeah. Or
that's
Cactus Jack.
Obviously.
Like, he can't. I love
Bang,
the
bang.
sock.
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh,
Mr. Socko.
Socko, yeah.
Yeah.
The Rock and Sock
Socko.
connection was a.
But Dude
Excellent
Love was
tag
always
team.
great. Cactus Jack didn't come out much.
No, well, when he had to.
Yeah, it didn't come out enough.
When
Don't
he
you
had
think
to.
these
Didn't
guys
come out
get
enough.
bored? Don't they get bored?
The wrestling people?
Listen,
Yeah,
listen,
like-
listen.
That's a lot of dates on the road.
Some of them are so good. Everybody else is scrounging around trying to come up with the new Fandango, whatever persona. Mick Foley's so good. He had 3 on the go at the same time.
Successful.
Super
Well, he's
successful.
technically 4.
Right.
Because there's still Mick Foley
Right.
even that he got into.
You'd watch one week and Dude Love would show up, and then the next week Cactus Jack, and I'm like, what
As a
You
kid, I
never
was
know.
so
What
confused
happened?
by that.
You never knew what you were going to
Yeah.
get.
As a kid, it's like that's got to be the same person, but you didn't fully know.
That's not Chris Gaines. That's Garth Brooks.
how dare he?
Was it? I think it was Mick Foley. What did he fight as here in Edmonton at Backlash?
Ooh.
I forgot because he fought Randy Orton and he was gonna light something and it didn't happen. It was a great. It was like actually Mick Foley talks about how that was one of his favorite fights or something.
None of us could do that.
Fighting in the ring.
No, none of us could have an alter ego that
ego?
we could actually.
Well, unless you're
sell.
Gene Principe.
Right.
Gene
I have this betting
dressed up
thing,
as a hot
apparently,
dog. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Mr. Lean now.
I'm Mr. Lean when it comes to betting. I have leans, not
Really?
full bets, but leans.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm 1-0 this week, so it's got off to a great
It's
start.
better than the Oilers.
Hey-o.
You're one. You're one and up.
Although actually the Oilers haven't played this week. We'll give them that.
Technically.
There we go.
Not
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah.
Week starts either Sunday
yeah.
or Monday.
I'm
depending
intrigued by
what
the
day,
game
you know?
though tonight.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yes.
I'm going to be curious to see how they do in a barn that they seem to like playing in.
I'm just curious to see what non-sports banners they have on the roof at Bridgestone.
They've got to have something.
There's a
Gotta
few.
have something.
Hey, listen, it's Nashville. That is not necessarily the Predators building.
At Bridgestone,
Bridgestone.
I think they have #1 fans or something like that. They have a fan one, but I don't think they have
I think there's a. Is there not a Wall of Fame? Now, the Wall of Fame might be better for you, right? As
There you go.
opposed to
Yeah.
a banner.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Madison Square Garden. You go in through the garden and you see pictures not only
Amazing.
of Knicks and Rangers and the Liberty and all those
Yep.
teams
Yeah.
like that. All the performers who've played there, and it even has the dates and how many
That's
times
cool.
they've played there.
Yep.
That's kind of neat. It's kind of neat to walk around the concourse.
Beautiful.
At MSG. I love going there. That's a great place to watch a game.
I got an article from 6 years ago.
Okay.
Please.
Nashville Mayor Megan Barry, Governor Bill Haslam, and Nashville Predators President Sean Henry presented Garth Brooks with a special honor
Of
Wednesday.
course he did.
He got a banner.
Of course he did.
Is it still up though?
Although I'll give this. There was he put together 9 flood relief shows, and he raised millions of dollars for the city. So
And
there
he
was
lives there.
additional benefit for the city. So that
Okay, so that took
that
it
he
to the
helped
next
rebuild
level.
after their devastating
Okay,
2010
okay.
floods. Just read that part.
Okay.
But they have a Garth Brooks 9 shows banner as
Okay,
well.
listen. Chris Gaines could have done all that stuff too.
Yeah.
At the same time. Okay, I want to watch a show in this new techno dome they have in Vegas.
The big eyeball?
That would be sensory overload for me. Yeah, the big
looks
eyeball.
awesome.
Yeah,
It
the
would
big
be
eyeball.
fantastic.
One of the most expensive courses you could golf is right there, and you have to now stare at this like
Nice.
emoji looking face that's looking at you as you play.
He's on to something
Just
over there.
in regard to the Garth Brooks banner, because it was pissing me off.
In Nashville or in Edmonton?
In Nashville.
Okay.
I just
It's
ripped the
on the
Band-Aid off.
concourse.
Oh, it's in the concourse?
On the concourse, yeah.
And it's the same
Okay.
logo as the one that hangs.
Doesn't count then.
Well, that's his
embarrassingly.
logo.
Isn't that
yeah,
his
yeah.
brand?
I
I'm
would say
sorry,
that
here.
that's his brand.
There it is. In
Okay.
Pred's
I didn't know if
colors.
they just says that they
Yeah.
honored him with a banner.
Is the G for Gaines?
Yes, it is. That is correct, Jerry.
Sorry, I'll let it go.
If the Oilers and OEG takes that banner and puts it in the concourse,
Perfect.
Cool?
Fine.
You're cool.
Fine.
They have the old banners
cool.
from Rexall / the Coliseum
Absolutely.
lining the corridor between.
Those are replicas.
Those are the old ones.
They sold them.
There was a new set created
Okay,
Or
so
up in the rafters.
for,
ones in the
for
rafters.
the last few years of the Coliseum.
The old ones.
Yeah.
And so they needed to put them somewhere, so they put them along the wall.
but that's
Put-
not on the
put that one
concourse.
on
That's
there.
outside the rink.
Who? It's in the building. Oh my god!
This is so easy.
By the way, Fen and Fernie says no trophy, no banner. Great show, boys. Love to hear from Bryn.
No
Thank
trophy,
you,
no.
Fen.
Well, in Garth Brooks, maybe Garth Brooks in his mind got a trophy. Maybe they gave him a trophy. We don't know. Maybe they said 9 shows. Here's your trophy. You got a trophy.
I don't know. You know what? The note I laugh at is that the guest or the special locker room. Have you been in the special locker room down there?
For
It's so if let's say one of the big, let's say Taylor Swift comes to town, plays the building, or
like
when
the
Elton
Stars extra rooms.
It's the room for the concert room. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
yeah.
call it for the
Green room.
yeah. It's also the referee room, which makes me laugh because they get
Is
this
it?
big. Yeah, it's
I know where
it's
it's
the
tucked
change
back
room
there.
for the
Yeah.
referees, but they can kind of block it off a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful room. Like that facility is just so spectacular in so many ways. And
Yes.
if you ever get a chance to go into that room and see where in the old building, you used to have to put up all the curtains
Yeah.
all the time. You used to have to ship in the furniture all the time. That room is pretty much set to go. All you have to do is just unlock it, and you walk in, and it's just beautiful. It's a first class facility.
host parties at times, I think during like Oilers
Yeah, I
or
think
like
that they
other
do some
games, like Oil
special,
Kings or something. Like you could go. They'll have some things there because
Corporate
they've got a
events.
bunch of those rooms
Yeah.
now.
Corporate
They
events.
have a-
None of us
yeah.
would be invited to these corporate events.
This is
I don't get invited to anything.
Why
so.
would we have to be invited anywhere? We're here.
that's right.
Hey, we have got our own corporate event going.
Got our own corporate event.
The Doc chimes in. I like this.
Doc.
Chris Gaines was an alter ego he built that was slated to have his own movie. Garth hosted SNL, and Chris Gaines was the musical act. It was super brave.
Really?
Actually good, all in caps. But he got ripped for it, which is too bad. The concept was good, but mainstream country wasn't ready for that yet.
But he
The
wanted
Doc.
rock.
It's a good one.
But
Yeah,
rock.
he's a music lover, not just a country music lover, right? So
But
nice. Attaboy, Doc.
did Garth
The
Brooks
Doc.
get five show jacket?
No,
No.
no, he didn't.
I'm sure
gonna
he's
beat him.
performed 5 times
beat
on
him.
Saturday Night Live.
He's mocking it.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to think. He's,
Don't
but
you
they
have to
don't do the
host?
music.
You have to host
the
it 5
jacket's
times.
hosted.
Yeah, it's host.
But I'm sure as a musical guest, he's done a lot.
Could have.
Garth Brooks doesn't scream New York to me. I'm just saying.
No. No, he doesn't.
You could do anything.
Billy Joel does.
I would love to see Billy
Nassau
Joel. Not gonna lie.
Coliseum,
Big Billy Joel
MSG,
fan.
Yeah.
Philly. He's got his banner up there, and we're not talking 9 straight shows. Like he's not played hundreds of shows in those buildings, right? In cities, right?
Because they're more on the beaten path,
Right.
right? If you're coming out to Western Canada, that's once every 3 or 4 years. I think that was a special occasion, too. It was a new opportunity to show off the new building. He wasn't doing shows in Calgary. It was kind of fun what they
Garth
did
here?
away
Yeah.
from the shows. Like, I still remember Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind coming in and doing the Habitat for Humanity during a couple of off days that they had here. They did work themselves around the town a little bit, but that's the kind of thing that it's not going to happen here very often.
Right.
There will not be another banner like that going up at that building.
So
Let
we
me just say that.
respectfully
In my
take
time.
it down from the main arena.
Well, then Garth's never
and
gonna come.
respectfully put it up somewhere
He's
in
never
the
going to
concourse.
come. Now you've just disrespected Garth.
I don't
and
care.
Garth's going to look at Edmonton and be like, why would I do a show
I
there?
think he's
I'm
a
gonna go to
tremendous
Calgary and I'm going to do 10
performer.
shows in Calgary and they're going to give me a banner and Calgary gets all that money and you've just cost the city stuff and you're giving Calgary an advantage here, Tommy.
I respect him very much for his accomplishments and his musical accolades. That I will never take away from him. I just don't think that banner needs to be inside the arena. You could put it respectfully and
But he
proudly.
didn't do the show outside. He did the show inside.
Let me spin this around on you guys for a minute.
Stupid
'Cause
banner.
when I worked in Calgary and I was on the Flames broadcasts, one of the things, and I kind of held back for a while because, you're working alongside the Flames. They're your partner. You're the broadcast voice, so they're the partner. But the one thing that drove me crazy there was the real hesitancy and reluctance when I was there of actually hanging banners, right? They had a couple. I think they had Mike Vernon was up. Lanny, of course, had to be up. But, Theo Theo was a great Calgary Flame. His work on the ice was
Correct.
exceptional.
Yeah.
Right? Off the ice, little different story,
Yep.
a little more questionable. But you know what? You're honoring somebody for what they've either done in the community for community events associated with the club or what you did with the club. But I remember when Al McInnes was having his number retired, it was they wanted to have a wall in the hallways. And I thought to myself, I don't like that. You've had these guys, Joe Newendike, number had to go up, right? I think there are some things, there's some banners that you have to put up. You can still have a once a Flame, always a Flame. Once an Oiler, always an Oiler wall if you want to honor players who've gone through the organizations. And that's great. That's fantastic stuff. But some banners have to go up, right?
Yeah.
And so I we're talking about what justifies putting up a banner, or even a Garth Brooks banner. I think it's more than a sports facility. I think we have to recognize that. But I think that in some facilities that I think that there's a real hesitancy to raise any banners. And I think that that's wrong. I don't see anything. There's a lot of empty space up there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that a Garth Brooks banner is really affecting anybody other than in your psyche.
Just these two.
Okay. So it doesn't
big
bother
time.
me. It doesn't bother me at all. I'd like to see other banners go up there.
Oh, the Garth is also right on the press box side.
It's literally
it's
right
right
in
there.
front of where
Yeah.
It's
Gerry
right in
and I
front of
said.
yeah,
You
exactly.
guys see that all the
So-
time.
It's
So there you go.
Seeing like with the Oilers, I'm okay with the Oiler team itself. Their criteria for what deserves a banner, which is Hall of Fame. I'm okay
Absolutely.
with that. And then I love that they've added the Hall of Fame to then recognize that next tier of Oilers and
Yes,
have their
ring.
names that goes around and having the ring. And ultimately, like the statue now has become the most exclusive thing the Oilers are. It's been once, and it was when he got traded away and Wayne Gretzky or sold or whatever. And I think the only person that's the next person is going to be Connor. I don't see how you don't have a statue for Connor when his career.
What about Mark Messier? He's from here.
See, Wayne
But
Gretzky,
now we're too far past Messier's career. Why would you throw him a statue at this point now?
Because
What-
he's from here and he's won 5 Stanley Cups, one
Yeah.
of them as captain.
and 6 in total.
Okay. And they both have roads named after them.
That's right.
What,
There's the honor
What
that they
road
got.
does Connor get down the road?
Connor's Road.
Hey. see what you
or
did
that
there.
or Wayne got the road that went by Rexall.
104th
You-
Avenue.
yeah.
So you get 104th.
I like
Boom.
That's what
I like it.
you get a stretch of that thing where it's McDavid Way or McDavid Road or
McDavid Lane.
yeah,
Boulevard.
like that's what he would get. But
From
I think we're past
the
the
museum,
giving Messier
yeah.
some. I don't know how.
How?
He hasn't played since how long for the Edmonton Oilers?
I don't think.
Yeah, he's had the retirement night. You've given him the banner already. You're going to bring him now for
so
another
is there a
statue.
limit on history then, Matt?
I think there comes a point where you
Statue.
stop
What
honoring
what
so
about
far
Bud
past
Grant?
and you
He
start
just
getting
got
to
a-
the next level.
You know, there's one thing that really annoys me, and now I'm getting angry.
Okay, good.
And
I like
that is
angry Brent.
this. The Edmonton Oiler history does not start in 79. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
no, there's
The Edmonton
WHA.
Oiler history started in 72.
Yeah.
I had the privilege when I worked for the Oilers, my office was right next door to Bill Hunter's office. Bill Hunter was given an office, a place where he could come and feel wanted as part of the organization, and he would have a lot of fun. The building doesn't get built. The Coliseum does not get built without Bill Hunter. The franchise doesn't come to Edmonton without Bill Hunter and his partners. The National Hockey League wanted no part of Edmonton, even in 1978 or 79 when merger talks came up. The only reason that we were given a franchise was we proved, based on what we did from 72 to 79, that a city under 1 million people could actually support a National Hockey League franchise. There were 3 Canadian teams at the time, the Vancouver Canucks, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, who wanted no part of Edmonton or Winnipeg or Quebec City to be part of the National Hockey League. This team does not exist without the 72 to 79 era. So I always get irritated when people say, Edmonton Oilers established in 1979. No, it was not established in 79. It was established in 72. Do not forget your history.
That's a good point. Maybe,
And that's why.
maybe the WHA Oilers deserve their own banner.
Hey.
Well, Al Hamilton has his banner for the
Hamilton-
WHA
That's true.
years,
That's
right?
true.
And now when I give him,
But let me get this straight. Are you asking if there should be a statute on statues?
I like the writer. The writer comes up with that.
Yes.
well done.
Yeah,
And-
Well, no, it's
How about the living statue honoring Bill Hunter every single day and warming the cockles of our hearts? Hunter the
Mascot.
Lynx.
Yeah.
with 72
It's a
as
nice
his
touch,
number.
but most people don't even know.
I didn't even think of that.
Most people don't even know that.
Honestly, I didn't even put
That's-
that together in a
right?
sense.
Yeah,
That's who Hunter-
That's why he's called
Yeah.
Hunter.
That
and
makes
that's
a lot
why he
of
wears
sense.
72.
Wow, I'm ashamed that I didn't realize that one.
But I get it irritated, and I can do that as the older guy on this panel. Is that history goes back further than 1990. It goes back to the 80s and the 70s.
But
people don't want to acknowledge that. It's almost like it's forgotten.
Well, the thing though with Messi for me is we've honored him. And now there's next people that need to be honored. Like the Oilers, we're in a time where there's players of the late 90s, early 2000s that need to start getting honored.
Who was the better
And
captain, Wayne Gretzky or Mark Messier?
I would defer to others who've watched that over me.
Okay.
Messier was
I
the
will tell
better
you,
leader
talking
because-
to guys who are in the alumni who love Gretz, said Mess really set the standard for captaincy.
Yeah.
But that's not to dismiss Wayne Gretzky's ability as a player, the greatest of them all right now.
And Messier did it without Gretzky and then went somewhere else. And
Having covered the team in 1990-91 on that run, you could see the looks in their eyes. The moment they won in Chicago at the stadium and beat the Blackhawks to go on to represent the West in that Stanley Cup final, when nobody even thought that they were going to be anything without 99, you needed to talk to Mark Messier or Kevin Lowe, any of these guys on that team. That cup, the cups, Kevin, I think, said that the first one was, of course, so special. But that last one, and that last one without Wayne, has got to be really close to number 2 for all those guys on that, because they were told constantly, you'll never be anything without him. You'll never be anything without him. And Mark Messier single-handedly took the Chicago Blackhawks apart in that Clarence Campbell Conference final. I still remember the game at the Chicago Stadium. I'm getting goosebumps. I can feel the hair on the back of my neck going up now. Listening to the fans in Chicago go, we're not going to beat that guy. We can't beat that guy. Like, honestly, I can feel the hair going up in the back of my neck. And to be sitting in that stadium, which it was a treat to begin with, I started to recognize the power of his leadership. And his leadership combined with Wayne's overwhelming personality and on-ice presence, that made that team. If Wayne had hung around, they'd have won 2, maybe 3 more cups. I'm guaranteeing you that. But Mark Messier, I think is sometimes discounted a little bit as a leader of this hockey club. And I think Mark was just as important a part of that team as Wayne Gretzky was.
Agreed.
And Wayne was the guy that we all loved. But I think everyone loves the Moose here. They still do.
Yep.
Yeah.
That 90 team was the first. That was the only win on the road, wasn't it? The cup.
That was the
and
only
that made it
one.
a little special where they could just celebrate.
I got to tell you, the media came back on the plane, and it was so much fun. It was a 5.5-hour charter back from Boston, and it's a career highlight for me because nobody cared that you were a media guy on that thing. It was all like,
Amazing.
we were all one coming back,
Yeah.
and it was just like it was a real special thing, and to see the guys singing at the back of the plane, simply the best. To see guys at the front. I'm not a big guy on getting my pictures taken with players. In fact, I don't like to do it.
Yeah.
Or I only have one picture of me in the Stanley Cup, and it's me and Adam Graves at the front of the plane because somebody said we have Perry Ma from the newspaper wants to take pictures of all these guys. You want to come up and get your picture taken with the cup. I'm on this plane, and I feel like the walls are down. There's no media. There's no team. You're part. The wives and the girlfriends are on the plane. It was a real special thing to win on the road, and I think there was something special about that, as opposed to winning it at home. To have that experience to win on the road, to be able to share it, to be able to go out as a unit and not have to worry. The reality never really hit the guys until we arrived at the old International Airport, and you could hear the bedlam on the other side of the glass, and that's when the Edmonton and the Oilers had the chance to share. But they had a good 24-hour period where they were able to share it amongst themselves. And the media guys were different. We still had a connection to those guys. And a lot of those guys are still friends. I'm excited for Charlie Huddy to have his name on the ring. Doug Waite, I worked for the team when Doug Waite was playing. How did he get a 100-point season on a team that was really at times challenged offensively? It says a lot about Doug Waite. So times are different.
Yep. Mark Messier. I mean, they gave Dustin Brown a statue outside of Staples Center.
Okay, you can't.
I know that's a different organization,
Different organization.
but
You
I'm
can't
just saying,
compare
but
the
like
same.
how-
There's only
Community
one.
work.
Yeah.
And I think the next one, like
I think Mark Messier deserves it.
Mark's already gotten his honors. There comes a point where like you got to start honoring people when people are like. I had one of the problems with Terry Vaughn not being honored for so long is that the people that watched him can't celebrate him.
Yeah.
And there's a thing about the people that got to watch that player play get to celebrate them. There's so many people that one haven't seen Mark Messier anymore. Or know that he was really annoying. Like somebody joking, Joe in the nasty chat joking, Mark Messier is the greatest Vancouver Canuck player in NHL history.
I think a lot of Vancouver Canucks and their fans would
Well, so
argue
why is there no
that.
Joey Moss statue at the Moss Pit? Joey meant a
Well,
lot to
because
this
you can't
city.
put anything in that moss pit because people are going to destroy it.
Yeah, that's true.
Come playoff time.
Electrify it.
Now I would pay for a ticket to see that.
That would be kind of fun,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? On those special playoff nights.
That would be awesome.
There just never has been talk of statues from the
Statues?
right?
I don't have a problem with statues. I
Like
really
for
don't.
LA, that is a big deal getting the statue.
I know, that's
That
why I
is
bring
a
up the
big
Dustin Brown
one for
thing.
them to do. Well, and for them to say that he's worthy of one. That speaks to what he's done in that community and with that organization, where they're saying you could stand up there with the likes of Magic and Shaq and soon to be Kobe and whoever else that they have around there. Gretz, he's got one. Is there any other hockey players that have out there?
Marcel Dion had a pretty good career with the Los Angeles Kings. I can't recall there being a statue outside there. Maybe at the the Great Western Dump or the Forum. Hey, listen, you have a guy. Mark Messier certainly deserves a statue. I feel. I don't think that you just have to have one statue. But
Hey, he had a pretty decent career. I think if he wanted a statue, he could build his own. Put it right front and center in the fountain.
do that.
Everybody
He just shows
gets
up,
to the
puts
driveway.
it there. And
Bob and Doug McKenzie have a statue.
They do.
By the way, I've got relatives who come into town. They love that statue.
There's always people around it.
I know
Yeah.
there are, right? So
our video's choppy again,
is it?
but
You
I'm
wanna
not touching it this
Okay,
time.
all right, fine.
We've got audio. If you're watching again, it's like that old school security camera stuff where it just like
Yeah,
moves
stop
around.
motion. Yeah,
That's what you get here. It's like we're
that's
South Park.
Halloweeny.
That damn update.
Yeah, exactly. Let's blame that.
And I do just quickly want to get in the nasty chat. By the way, Bryn Griffiths, Gerry Moddejonge, Tom Gazzola, Matt Iwanyk with you here on the EST Hangout. Michael asking, where do I get an EST hoodie? Our store is going to be up live likely Monday of next week, thanks to our partners at the Hive Product Marketing, the official merch partner of EST. Products that bring the buzz, thehighproductmarketing.com. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up next week. But we also do have the Nasty Club that is live, edmontonsportstalk.com. Click on the Nasty Club. It is our exclusive club with some bonus content. I know the boys, Dusty and Eric, they've already recorded the post-show for today. Once this show's done, I'll throw it up there, and you get access to the post-show and some other bonus content. So our OnlyFans without, right now, the pervy stuff. I
love that.
An OnlyFans.
Well,
Allegedly.
So far.
Allegedly.
apparently I'm supposed to
come.
provide foot shots.
Well, we might just take them without your knowledge and put them up there.
Weird.
You won't know.
What
but
shots?
No.
Is there a story?
Lieutenant Eric
Oh,
dropped it in the promo
You
yesterday.
don't know, people will buy people's like foot photos
it's
of
a
pictures
thing.
of foot. Like,
Really?
There's a
It's a
lot
thing.
of money
It's a
on that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that just want to buy foot pictures.
All right, super. To each their own, I guess.
I
The,
suppose
the
so.
internet has
You
room
learned
for
something.
everything.
Hey, I'm not here to judge. I'm
Whatever
just here
you
to
like,
go,
it's there.
What?
But
WTF?
feet, like pictures of feet, is a hot seller out there.
Okay.
So
All right.
one day, maybe without his knowledge, Tom Gazzola's
I like
feet
to
are going to
think
be at
I'm
the Nasty
kind
Club.
of up with the times, but I kind of missed that one, I guess.
There's some things we don't need to deep dive into.
Hey, before we go, I don't know, how are we for time, by the way? I've got no
We
clue.
got less than
25
30
minutes.
minutes left.
Okay, well, I just want to say thanks for having me on. I was supposed to be on way earlier
Yes.
because I said I'd come on. And it's nice of you to have me in here
worries.
because I just wanted to see how you guys are doing, and you guys are doing great.
Well, thank you.
So I
Thank
just
you,
wanted to
Ben.
throw that out there.
You've gotten us fired up. We've been ripping on Garth Brooks, people defending Garth Brooks, people agreeing to put the banner not in the arena, but on the concourse. It's been
I was
excellent.
warned at home not to be too dominant because one of the things you learn in the business is one of the two hosts tends to take the not dominant role, but takes the lead and maybe controls. I always believe good talk radio, good talk streaming, anything revolves around 3 C's. You have to have content, and we're just
Well, that we
shooting
don't
the
have.
shit. And we're-
That is not
but
necessary here.
we're having fun. So
Already strike one.
so content, You have to be creative. Well, we've covered that, and then there's got to be a little conflict, right?
Yep.
And
Okay, we've had that one.
And so
That's been
I think
good.
we got 2 of the 3 covered then.
Oh.
We make a good tag team here, Bryn, because the great Dave Jameson proved to me the value of the zinger. So you can just carry it. I'll just throw in one thing here and there, and we'll be out of here in a couple hours.
Yeah, hey, but it's been a
Okay.
blast.
What do you make of how like U.S. television nowadays with the Stephen A. Smiths and that fake conflict?
I will tell you, because this is going back to when I was at 1260. We even ran him. He had a show and we ran it. I loved it. I just loved the show. The audience hated it. It was a little too American, right? His style was a little too abrasive for people. But I will tell you one thing about him. Anytime he talks, I turn it up. And now he'll just drop some stuff online, maybe on his X feed or whatever. And I always watch it because I want to know, what's he going to say today? What's he going to say today? I'm sure that he's probably sat around his condo overlooking Central Park thinking about how can I upset somebody today? And I don't really care. As long as he's entertaining me,
Yep.
that's all I really care about. I don't have to agree with everything that's said on a show. As long as you're entertaining me, and maybe you'll make me change my opinion. Maybe you'll make me evoke a different response. But the whole goal for this is that if we're not sitting here talking about stuff and making people laugh at home or in their cars or wherever they're downloading us or streaming us, then we fail. We're at the end of the day, and I really don't like saying this to people who always consider themselves to be journalists first. You better be an entertainer first. If you can't write in an entertaining manner, if you can't talk in an entertaining manner or create a television story in an entertaining manner, you fail.
Then it doesn't matter what you say.
It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. So Stephen A. Smith, for me, I always, weirdly enough, have time for him because I will laugh or I'll go, oh, he's out to lunch today.
Yeah.
There's always a response out of me. So you know who wins? He does. I always hear... Matty has been covering the Edmonton Oilers Hockey Club for a very long time. He's been a beat reporter. Terry Jones, at the same time, was a columnist. So, and I don't have to tell you this, the beat reporter's job is to kind of tell me how the game went and to go in and get the quotes to fill in the story, to give me an overview of the story. Jonesy's job was to make me see things wildly different about maybe the way the hockey club is playing. That's a columnist's job, is to evoke a response, where I think a beat reporter is to give me an overview of the story that maybe, or the game I may have missed. I find Stephen A. Smith, to me, is a video editorialist. He evokes a response out of me every single time, whether it's a laugh or it's a guffaw or it's I shake my head. So he wins. He's the big winner. If a columnist, a Mark Spector, makes me angry, Spec wins.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah. His job is to make you love him or hate him, not ignore him.
If indifference is really indifference or being boring,
That's the
is
worst.
an absolute failure for any of us in this business. And so Stephen A. Smith, once again, he's not boring. And so I find him frequently funny, and sometimes I'm irritated by him, and sometimes I laugh.
Let me ask you this. Stephen A. Smith, the difference between him and a Skip Bayless and a Colin Cowherd, like what sets Stephen A. apart from those guys who irritate the hell out of people and get into these spats with athletes and executives and stuff like that? What puts him above those guys who just get ripped for their awful takes and them trying to stir the pot?
I think, man, I don't like going after players.
And we don't like going after other media members either. But
No, because I understand what they do, and I've been in the locker room on both sides, so I understand how players operate. I don't like to highlight players generally, right? However, if a guy makes a glaring error, you do have an obligation to point it out. But I don't like to hammer it. And I did color on the Winnipeg Jet broadcast too, back in 91, 92. And the one goal that I always had was, okay, you have to point out a mistake, but just don't keep, and I had a few of the players say, listen, just do us one favor. We understand if you have to say we effed up, but don't go on and on and on and on and on about it. Don't turn us into, the
The martyr, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't like it when guys go after specific players, but I think Stephen A. Smith is a little more want and need to go after the system as opposed to go after specific players. That's kind of my take for the most part.
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious because I know like Coward and Bayless are those guys that are loud and they have those crazy takes, and then Stephen A. does the same thing, but at the same time, there's much more appreciation for Stephen A. and then those other guys get laughed at times.
Yeah, and the other one too is I think if you're a columnist, I'll use Speck as an example. People think because they saw the Draisaitl thing, we don't really know for sure what the relationship is like, other than the fact that they went at each other verbally that one day,
right?
Or maybe that those 2 or 3 days. So therefore, people always say, "Well, he's trying to get this player pushed out of here. He's trying to get under the skin of that player." I watched Jonesy get under. Jonesy single-handedly helped the Edmonton Oilers by calling them weak-kneed wimps after they lost the Miracle in Manchester and Los Angeles. And those guys to a man would say, we hated him for saying it. We hated him saying it, but we used it as fuel for the fire the next year, where they went on to get to the Stanley Cup final. I know they lost to the Islanders in 4 straight, but I think sometimes we're a little too sensitive. We live in too sensitive a world.
Especially when everybody's story goes like this, up and down in a wave. And we point out the ups and the downs, and you can't have the ups in your story without
a few downs.
Overcoming something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So.
The Oilers gave Jonesy a seat from the Coliseum with a plaque and the weak-kneed wimps quote on it. Nice. with the base too.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And hey, listen, I think sometimes columnists have a really good knack, or people on the radio. Players, of course, never read the papers.
No, of course
never
not.
watch television and never listen to the radio.
Never.
Ever. But they seem to know these quotes all the time. They seem to hear all this stuff all the time. Or players will come up to you and say, I heard...
It was through social media.
Somebody told
me on Twitter.
George Larocque is my all-time favorite for this, because I would do the morning show at 12:60 and I would say something. And I would go home and I would walk the dog to kind of unwind for the afternoon. And almost guaranteed around 1:30 I'm walking the dog, my cell phone would ring. It was George. And George would always say, I heard you were talking about me today. And I go, okay, what did I say? And he would tell me what I said. And of course, it was nothing like what I said. I said, where did you hear that from? Well, 2 friends told me that this, and of course, the stories changed. It would be
the game of telephone.
It would be 2 or 3 times a week, right? And I loved it. I thought it was great. But, you're going to piss people off at times. I said, well, George, just be better. Be better the next game. And of course, that would just irritate the shit out of me.
Well, yeah.
So, anyway.
Meat Texan says the Stephen A portion of the NFL pregame yesterday was unwatchable.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
And there just is a big difference between Canadian media and U.S. media, where that is, you don't have the Skip Baylesses really in Canada. You don't have those people that are trying to do, like, people trying to do hot takes. That's always there, but taking it to that next level.
Well, let me throw a name out for you guys. Let's take a Canadian broadcaster. Do you remember Brian Williams? Brian Williams?
Who doesn't remember Brian Williams?
Brian
it's
Williams
10:44 right now, 12:44 in Toronto.
Brian Williams, to me, he made Don Cherry who he was, because he got under Don Cherry's. He got under Don Cherry's skin. This is before Grapeline.
Okay.
Don Cherry was on. Remember the punch up in Piestani, right? So they come on, and it's Brian Williams for you folks out on the West Coast. It's 12:50. He would do his time check across the nation. But he knew that Don was really upset by how the Russians really did sucker us in that game in Piestani. And he knew that Don was angry about it. So he found a way. He turned Don Cherry into the star that he was, because he got under Don's skin, and Don was getting irritated. And Brian continued to pick away and pick away and pick away. And Ralph Mellenby, who was one of the all-time great sports producers in our country, said he might be good on Hockey Night in Canada if we could bottle that. But Brian Williams always had a knack for still covering the sport, but nobody would go after the IOC harder at the Olympics if there was some injustice. But Brian Williams was kind of a new wave Canadian broadcaster who was not afraid to say how he felt. Up until that point, everybody was pretty safe. But who now does that? Is there anybody that can you think of anybody who would irritate the viewer, the listener, the teams, the organizations more? Does anybody even say anything that would irritate people? It's hard. The difference between Canada and the U.S. is radically different. They understand that you're better.
They play
off
for the show. They want to put on a show and they want to entertain first and
exactly.
foremost.
Love or
and
hate.
that's where, like, even if you go to the radio, like in Boston, like I'll use them for example, their morning shows are really different than what you're going to hear in Canada.
Yeah.
Because they're going straight up for that full entertainment and they want that shock value. They're trying to get under everyone's skin. You don't get that as much here in terms of broadcasters that maybe do that.
It's probably easier to find radio guys that have
I'm just
done
trying to
that
think
more than
TV.
TV is always still a little safe.
Yep.
But I only bring Brian Williams up because when anytime I think, and by the way, that's how the Grapevine got started.
Was it that one?
Yes, and Don Cherry says, I'll do radio, but I'm going to work with that guy. Because that was a loyalty thing, right? For the most part.
Right.
And that show was on radio for the longest time. The Grapevine, I thought it was always
It was still running up until a few years
Yeah,
ago, right?
yeah.
I think when everything went down with Don and Sportsnet.
Yeah, exactly. But it was getting to the end anyway. But I think you've got to remember that it's entertainment, and if you don't entertain, I think you fail in a little respect. I do like the fact that the broadcasters are given an opportunity to be a little more personable, right? We have a TV play-by-play voice here who's a very distinct personality. I love Jack to death. He's got his thing, right? Louis got his thing. Gene clearly has his thing.
Yeah.
Calgary's a little more conservative. I think Rick calls a great game, but he's a more traditional broadcaster. So he'll get more network assignments than Jack will. I don't think there's any denying that. And Kelly Rudy's pretty safe, but Kelly knows the game. But
Kelly's great on the panel.
yeah, I think Kelly.
Yeah.
I like Kelly
in
on the
the
panel
booth.
better than in the booth. And Ryan Leslie's really good, but Ryan is also very professional.
Yep.
The two cities couldn't be more different.
Yep.
You've traveled. Edmonton and Calgary, blue collar Edmonton, white collar Calgary. I think the broadcasts are very much that way. I think radio is a little bit that way, and having worked in both cities.
We even call it infotainment now. If your whole idea is to inform, you better be doing it in a pretty fun, energetic way or some way that invokes a reaction.
But now you're the journalist here, so does it upset you when I say that you've got to be entertaining?
Not at
Because
all.
Some journalists get really anxious when they
I
do
would
that.
agree with you and even raise you to the point where if I'm not having fun writing something
Yeah.
in some way or it's not interesting to me while I'm putting it together, why would anybody want to sit there and read through it?
Fair
Yeah.
point.
So I still remember an episode when I was covering the Saskatchewan Roughriders where this is back at Old Taylor Field. John Gregory was the head coach, made a very questionable decision to go for a field goal from the 2-yard line in the last 2 or 3 minutes. He thought he was going to get the football back, and in the Canadian Football League with 2 minutes, he probably should get it back. But of course, they lost by a point. So as we're walking down the walkway out of the stadium, all you can hear from the fans is, why didn't he go for the touchdown? Why did he go for the field goal? Why did he go? I heard it from around 9 or 10 people going downstairs to the locker room. So my responsibility to represent the fan in the locker room, what's my first question got to be? Well, I got beat to the punch by a writer named Nick Miliokas, who was the longtime writer. He was the beat reporter. He asked, and John Gregory goes ballistic and threw a piece of chalk at him across the locker room. I'm thinking, wow, thank God I didn't get to him first. He said, well, that is a stupid question. And of course, I couldn't stop. I had to jump in and go, Coach, that isn't a stupid question, because as I walked down here for the 10 minutes, that's all I heard. So fans want to answer that question. You owe it to the fans. You don't owe it to us, but we're representing them. You owe it to the fans to answer that question, because that's the one they're wanting the question.
Did he
that
throw
happened
the
this year, though.
chalkboard to you?
Thank God he was out of chalk.
Yeah.
But that happened this year in the first game of the year with Chris Jones, did it
That's-
not? Where
that's true.
the two questions that were people wanted to
That's
kind of
true.
know is, okay, you lost the
Exactly.
home game again, but it was the 3 downs at the one. Why didn't you mix it up? And he didn't like that at all.
No, he basically, and even asking about the home North American
The
record, pro sports, male sports home losing streak.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very basic question I got. But he basically talks you down for asking the question that
Everyone's
he doesn't
talking
want to
about
have answers. So, yeah. So, hey, I'll ask you a stupid question. Give me a stupid answer. I don't care.
Say something.
Say
Right?
something.
But you're obligated to ask that question. You just are. I think if we're doing our job right, you're obligated to ask that question. And I'm not afraid to go back at a guy and I say, well, look, so I'm walking down, I take the elevator down here and everybody's talking about that. I got to ask you that question.
And you know what? Media in those type of post-game scrums used to have each other's back a lot more than they do now. Now, if somebody gets ripped by a coach, everybody's like,
This is the
that's
one
so
I've seen.
funny. Yeah.
That was the only
Yeah.
pregame show that first game this year I did at 1260 before we got shut down, or postgame show. And all we were hearing after that game, before we heard the quotes, was people asking about the third
Yep.
down. That was coming in. And then Rashad texted, he's like, yeah, postgame crazy. So we played it. And after was like, well, if you guys didn't ask that question, the question all of our listeners would have been texting at the time is, why did no one ask about the three downs from there? Like what? That's the question every single person wanted an answer to. And even if, Chris Jones didn't like the question, you have to answer to that because that's what your fans who are spending the money on your team and taking their time to watch this want the answer to. Got to ask that question.
Yeah.
You're not going to ignore the fact that if they did that and it was successful and they won the game, you're going to ask about it.
Yeah.
Why not the other way around?
Exactly. Yeah. Then that's funny they're just saying that because it just immediately brought me back to that first game this year, knowing
Happens.
that you guys were there, and
Happens like-
it's still happening to
Boy,
these days.
lo and behold, if you ask something and you get ridiculed for it, nobody's got your back in these scrums anymore. It is not the media brotherhood that it once was. And
No.
Chris
Well, it's
Jones,
got to have been tough also because there's not a lot
there's
at those
not a
games
lot,
in the Elks.
But there's an Elks is a little bit different
for those years.
But if Chris Jones says that's a stupid question, blah, blah, and the other guy jumps in and is like, yeah, but that was also a stupid play we're asking. Well, maybe that's why the question is stupid. So what do you have?
The problem is ego gets involved.
Yeah.
And people think that
Guaranteed.
you're second guessing them. Listen, coaches make mistakes all the time. They'll make radical decisions at the weirdest times, and we all make mistakes, right?
Sure.
What's wrong with admitting it?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what?
Exactly.
In hindsight, I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch the film tonight. Film. I love the fact I use the term film. Older coaches will use that, and I'm going to say, you know what? That was dumb, but I don't see anything wrong with admitting mistakes. I used to do that on the air every day.
Yeah.
Right?
And everybody was out there to catch it in real time.
Oh, yeah.
And now throw it at you, X or whatever, and you got to answer for it. It's
Someone will bring up something you
Absolutely.
did in 2012, and you said this, and look how wrong you are 11 years later.
I was cool back in 2012. I wouldn't
Nice.
even mind that.
No? All right.
Good old
Was
days.
that your Chris Gaines era?
That's
No, yes.
that goes way back.
Hey, before this wraps up, I got to ask you guys this because I'm having so much fun. Is what's going to happen with the football team here? Because I keep hearing the rumbles about private ownership
Yep.
coming on board, and I mean I don't know the real circumstance with where Rick's tenure, how long it's going to
Wallisher's,
last. Is
yeah.
he setting
Yeah.
the table like he did in
He doesn't.
Vancouver?
He doesn't seem to me to be a short-term kind of thinker, even at 75
No,
years old.
He
he's
was
good.
on the show when asked by Dusty, hey, when do you think this, is this going to be, you're done December 31 or are you going to go longer? He says, I don't know. Which if he was done December 31, he would have easily been like, no, I'm here until then. We'll get someone else in.
Yeah.
The fact that he wasn't able to answer that, he's here for a while and he's here for a reason.
And it
What's the
sounds like the
progression?
mood's pretty good right now, too. When he came in, it's night and day compared to what it was
that was
before.
a train wreck under the other guy.
Yeah. So, which I didn't, in some ways, I didn't see coming. I think after a while, I started to think that maybe there's something not quite right here, but things feel more comfortable under Rick.
Yeah.
I thought he did a fantastic job in Vancouver. I thought he did a great job here when he was here. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. But I'm just kind of curious to know whether or not we are going to finally go down that private owner route here.
I think 2024 is a big defining year for the
Yeah.
future of the Elks franchise in many ways, including
Financially.
Well,
Yeah, well,
but that's part private ownership too. Like if they're still
they're
struggling.
up against the wall.
Yeah.
Yep. I think
So
they were scrambling.
we might see that
let's
change.
hope. Let's hope there's a 2024.
Oh, boy.
See, that's what I've been hearing too. Is that now that's why I wonder whether a private owner is going to come in and bail, bail these guys out a little bit.
Or private ownership group.
A group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who? Let me ask you this: Is Rick able to find the next Rick?
I think the question is, can Rick find the next Doman?
Can you find
point.
both?
I think it starts.
I mean,
there.
he's
It
connected.
starts at that top part,
Yeah.
and then it works down from there.
Well, I think
Regardless, changes need to happen, and they
Yes.
need to be big, and they need to be almost immediate.
and quick.
Almost immediate.
As soon as the Grey Cup's done, December could be a real turbulent month for the Elks.
It is going to be,
So
just buckle up and keep your eyes
Fun
open.
times.
Yeah,
Fun times were had today over the hangout.
That's it?
We're
That's
done.
it?
We gotta.
Oh.
We
I've
gotta
had
send over.
I've
We
had
got,
dentist appointments more painful than this.
we've got Lock Shop coming up next. Dusty and Huss, and then at noon we've got Dusty, Matt Cassian, Walking Gauge with two guys and a goalie. You're back at 4:30 with the Oil Stream
Yes.
pregame show, and then you'll have the postgame show later tonight. Matt Cassian on the pregame. Who's on post?
Joaquin Gage is on
Gage will
post.
be
Yep.
on. Thank you for coming. You're at 2.
We're at
3 more to
2,
go.
baby. Counting them
3
down.
more to go. Brandon, it was great having you in.
Thanks. I got to get back to work. I got stuff to do at Road 55. So.
Road55.ca, Post Media. You'll have recap of today's game.
You bet.
In Post Media, there you go. On behalf of Bryn Griffiths, Gerry Moddejonge, Tom Gazzola, I'm Matt Iwanyk. Thanks for tuning into the EST Hangout here on EmptonSportsTalk.com and on YouTube. Up next with a better video quality, it is the Lock Shop with Dusty and Huss. That's going to happen in just mere minutes. Stay tuned for that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
I had one guy ripping me today.
Oh, that's
yeah.
good.
Yeah. So as
paid
you're talking
attention.
about that, I
Hey,
was
so
like,
did that automatically go that way, or do you do that?
I did that.
Or okay, all right.
Yeah, he
Oh,
does
I
that.
saw. I didn't see you had the mouse there. Okay.
We're not fully there yet.
Sorry if I was a little too
no, you're good.
dominant.
That was
All
good.
good, buddy.